real layer of.
Yes, Denobly is still a platform where there is excellent.
Am I audible, Ajay? Very clearly?
Yes, very clearly, very clearly. So we will be recording this meeting and it is also going live on YouTube. It has already gone live on YouTube. So we'll record mainly because we will create small little parts video, because sometimes people are interested only in seeing a part of the whole live session, because it goes into 6 hours, 3 hours each day. So we'll create small videos.
You know what? Let me dial from a different computer. Give me a second.
So Tushar, we can start.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the annual Stocktaking event of SHICAA, Safe and Healthy Internet for Children and Adolescents Alliance. So it is an alliance of mainly people who are working for safety and also well-being of children and adolescents and young people when they are on the internet, in the digital world, in the online space. Because we have seen that as we have progressed as a society, especially in the last 5 or 6 years, children are learning a lot over the online space, and being in the last 2 years especially, they have been a lot on their digital devices and using the internet for their learning, for their entertainment, for their communication, for their socialization, and many other things that they are doing. So as we see that whenever we live in a world, so we say that it is a digital world and it is a digital society. So it's very important, especially for children and adolescents and teenagers and young people, to be safe when they are using this, because it is an essential part of their life, as we say. And we are not somebody who would say that one should not be using this device or one should not be using the internet, but since it is a technology, and even this meeting is being possible and we have Tushar with us from California, it's mainly possible because of this internet based technology. So we say that it has to be promoted, it has to be used more and more by children and young people. Obviously, the timings and the usage has to be very age appropriate, but there should not be a complete no-no or a ban for children or young people or adolescents to be using these technologies. So these technologies are to be used because these are beneficial technologies, like means of transports are beneficial, but we have traffic rules. We have the way that one travels from one place to another. There are rules to it. Similarly, when one is using the internet, especially the younger ones are using the internet, it has to be through some rules. There have to be rules, there have to be preventive dimension, and once there comes some problem, there has to be a redressal dimension also. So talking about these things, especially in the context of the new cutting edge technologies of blockchain technology, you may say, or say artificial intelligence and machine learning coming into the social media, or say internet gaming, or in the field of communication, or in the field of e-commerce, even children and young people are using these things. So in this context, we are very fortunate to have Tushar Kant with us. Mr. Tushar Kant is the co-founder of Global IT Forum on Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning. So he has been graceful enough to join us from California. So it would be quite late in the evening there. So thank you, Tushar, for joining us. And he will be mainly talking about how these technologies are shaping up in the context of the new advancements for learning, new advancements for entertainment, new advancement for communication. And he will also be talking about how these also promote safety. There are added dimensions of danger and danger coming in, the risk and harm coming in because of these technologies. But these are the same technologies which also add dimensions of safety into it, prevention into it. And also if some untoward incidents happen, they also dimensions of solution and redressal of these things. So he'll be talking about these all dimensions. So over to you, Tushar. And Tushar has been very kind enough to also take live questions after this talk. So anybody who has questions after he speaks, please raise your hand or write in the chat box, and we'll allow you to interact directly with Tushar. Over to you, Tushar. Thank you so much.
Thank you. First of all, it's both an honor and pleasure for me to be speaking at this forum. I'm really impressed with the work Ajay and the team has been doing to ensure safety of kids in this new internet age where technology has pervaded every part of our life. I'm also very happy to see my high school teacher, Ms. Gauri Rakshit, who was a teacher to both me and Ajay and helped us shape our personalities, talent, dedication, which has basically helped us reach wherever we are. So, it's again, it's a pleasure and honor for me to meet everybody. Ajay, first of all, you gave a very good statement. I want to pick up on that. Technology is here to stay. You cannot run away from it. Question is how we handle it, how we work it. It actually takes me back to when I was in 9th grade in the school where me and Ajay studied, and our teacher, Ms. Rakshit, was there. And I was speaking on a topic. I spoke on a topic in a Hindi extempore competition. Should India use its atomic power to build atomic bombs? And my argument was, no, that's not the right use. The right use is to harness it for generating electricity because India had a huge energy deficit. Same thing comes for internet. It's a double-edged sword. It basically gives us access to a huge amount of information. It basically levels the playing field for people across the world. It basically helps spread education to every nook and corner of the country. It helps basically get healthcare through telemedicine into the hands of people who probably never visited a hospital in their life. All of these things have really revolutionized. And as Ajay said, I'm right now in California in Silicon Valley talking to all of you as if I'm actually in Delhi. At the same time, as you can imagine, there are always downsides, drawbacks, repercussions of things. And the reason this whole concept of adolescent mind and how they basically absorb information is very important is because that's the age when your character, when your thought process, your way of thinking, who you are going to become in life in long term essentially gets shaped up. It's also an age where you're vulnerable. You have curiosity, you have desires, you want to experiment with things in certain ways. And that's something that we need to be careful of. A good balance has to be brought in. The question arises, how does this balance get into picture, or how can we basically bring about this balance? Well, we can have a long philosophical discussion on the need, parental control, societal aspects. I'm going to not focus on that. I'm going to focus on some key technologies which basically enable you to do online monitoring of internet content, what basically gets downloaded, how people are accessing it. That's what I'm going to focus upon. So let me first of all help you understand what is artificial intelligence, something which is revolutionizing every part of the world, every sector of economy. Artificial intelligence is a technique where you use historical data to train models to predict what happens in future. It's like human brain, right? So when teachers like Gauri basically train people like me and Ajay, they basically imparted a certain education growing up, right? They use their thought process, their experience to help groom our personalities. Once we reach 20, 22 years old, after that, we are thrown into the real world. Whatever we had learned from them, we basically use that for our own life and then learn over a period of time and improve ourselves. That's how artificial intelligence model works. It works like human brain. You essentially use historical data to train a model and use that to predict what can happen going forward and also learn in the process through what is called a feedback loop. That is how it basically shapes up. Now, with the kind of work Ajay is doing and this organization is doing for online safety, there are two key technologies that you need to remember. Computer vision, which includes image processing and video processing, and natural language processing called NLP. These are the two critical technologies. Now, what are they? Let me give you a high level idea. You guys do not have to take a PhD degree in it to understand its efficacy, implementation, utility, and how it can impact. Computer vision is a technology where you can analyze images, like right now I am speaking, Ajay is speaking, to recognize people, who they are, whether the content is appropriate or not, is it age appropriate content or not. That is where computer vision comes into play. NLP is an ability to basically analyze language, words, sentences over a period of time to basically understand its impact, understand where it's coming from, and derive value and meaning out of it. When you combine the two, it's called multimodal analysis. Because sometimes the videos may look appropriate, the language is not. Or sometimes the video may look inappropriate, but the language is fine. You bring the two technologies together. It's something which is required. Development of this technology is required from the top brains of the world. Cloud computing is something you must have heard of, which is an ability to basically run, technologies and over public cloud, leveraging their compute and storage, and that has really revolutionized artificial intelligence. So ability to process images and text in real time is the two critical components which are required for ensuring online safety of kids, because when they're actually looking at content, we got to figure out a way to understand how it is. It's only when you understand the content can you put filters into it. You want to block the URL, you want to put some filters in your routers, you want to put your filters somewhere else. All of these things basically come into picture and work their way through that. Now, computer vision is a technology on which a lot of research has been done over a period of time, where you use something called CNNs, convolutional neural networks. For example, if I have to show an image of a cat and I want to build a model which can recognize cat, I have to show that particular model thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of images to basically train it to a level where you can figure out whether it's a cat or not. And similarly, whether it's an elephant or a man, and similarly, you can look at other images. NLP is a technique which is a little bit more complex, where if I'm speaking something, you want to interpret, understand what I'm exactly thinking through. And then it's a little bit more complicated because language is, of course, more complicated than images, right? You can look at a cat, a dog, a car, or an inappropriate image for a kid and easily recognize based upon features. When it comes to language, like human beings, computer has a tough time figuring out how the language will work. What I'm going to do is I can talk about a few other techniques, talk about few other companies, and maybe the research work being done in India and different places. But I would like to stop here for a minute, and I like to open it to people, and I want to make it a completely open forum. You can ask me anything you want in artificial intelligence and machine learning, latest in technology, how the world is working, who are the top companies of the world who are working that area, how does it apply to online safety. I want to make it an open forum because Ajay has invited me, a very dear friend of mine since high school days, so that you guys can get a glimpse of where the world is headed in terms of technological advancements, how you can leverage it for different kind of applications across the world. And just for the sake of the audience, in 2019 in January, we had an conference, Pan IIT conference in Delhi, which was focused on artificial intelligence. And I had actually developed the content for that conference in terms of application of AI to multiple different areas: agriculture, healthcare, medicine, trade, a lot of different areas. So, this is a forum where you can ask me, try to understand some of the key challenges that you face in terms of adoption of technologies like artificial intelligence in India. I have a very good friend who is Chief Data Officer of Reliance Jio and works with Ambani family in terms of figuring out how they can leverage artificial intelligence in their data networks. So again, let me stop here before I can certainly talk more, but wanted to open it to the audience. My request is whenever you want to ask a question, I would strongly encourage, if you feel comfortable, to switch on the video if you're not live, or if you want to just put it in the chat, however Ajay wants to do it.
Thank you, Tushar. I think anybody can ask questions. So anybody can put question in the chat box or raise hand. So
good. So if people do not specifically have questions, I would like to basically, Ajay, if you have specific questions, I can answer it for you, or else I can continue my conversation by looking at different parts of Indian economy, of Indian educational system, how some of these things work, how we can control. I can talk more. I typically like answering questions from people instead of just giving a monologue dialogue. How about I make it a little bit? Go ahead, Ajay. You're saying something?
I was mainly saying that we'll take questions because people will take time to formulate questions in their mind, because this is something which we are mainly having people not from technology background, but we have mainly people from social work and academia and sociology and social work background, people also from law background. So it will take time for them to comprehend what you are talking about.
Sure. There's somebody called Swati with a question.
Swati has a question. So,
and if she's here, it will be great. Swati, yeah, good. Thanks for switching on the video. Introduce yourself, Swati, and ask your question. I like interacting with the audience. And you have to also tell me not just your name, but also which part of India you are from. Where are you living right now?
So, a very good morning to everybody. Tusharji, my name is Swati Chakravarti and I live in Mumbai. I'm a documentary filmmaker. And I have a question about the artificial intelligence and technology community. So, as you know, as any community, there will be good and there will be bad. And what happens is that just as AI is being used for extreme good, and we can see that in our daily lives, there is a lot of AI that is being used for extremely criminal purposes as well. Now, as ordinary citizens who don't understand technology, we are unaware of how to recognize or to even control or to even predict what the negative, the negative people or the criminal people within AI will be doing next. Is there any movement within the AI community itself, the technologists, to say that let us get together to curb the bad and promote the good and keep our own people in check?
Swati, first of all, amazing question. Since you told your name is Swati Chakravarti, and I always, I grew up near Bengal. So those who know me, Ajay, Gauri, we lived. So I want to add a single line. I'm assuming you're from Bengal originally. So I certainly going to make a statement saying, Ami Bangla bushti pari, bolti pari na. So, I have, even though I have never lived there, and Ms. Gauri is laughing, she was a teacher. So first of all, and I'm really happy to meet somebody who's a documentary filmmaker. People like you typically do not, you guys are at such a stage of your life, never get a chance to have audience with people like you. But before I answer your question in a technical way, let me answer it in a philosophical way. The challenges you are seeing with misuse of AI is not new to human society. As technologies have developed over a period of time, criminals have always stepped up. Right? When we built roads, they decided to go and raid houses. When we built guns, they decided to murder people. You built tanks or aeroplanes, it went into the hand of terrorists. Right? This problem has always been where people who have so the problem is not with the technology, it's with the evil mind of people. Now, how do you handle it? Well, how did we handle robbers, dacoits, criminals in life? We basically had law enforcement agencies, legal rules. So you have to make the right laws, and then you need to have a way to enforce that. This is not different anyways. What we have to do here is, which we are doing now, the law enforcement agencies, that's one of the reasons I wanted to come here. So lawyers, regulatory agencies, people like Ajay, who basically run these kind of forum, they basically have to come together and formulate legal regulations of what is correct and what is not. When that is done, then technologies can help you enforce it. For example, in US, drive in speed limits are very strictly enforced on highways. You can't, let's say drive above 55 miles per hour. But if you're driving in a remote part of the forest where there is no police, people can break laws. What do? You have police monitoring them from helicopters up in the sky. Similarly, for things in internet area where people are going to misuse it, there are security attacks, cyber attacks, and they actually use artificial intelligence for cyber attacks, right? What you do is you build technologies which are smarter than what criminals have. You have to be a step ahead of them. So you get the laws on your side, you have to revise your laws, get laws in place, and then build technologies which are better than that. For example, every top company in America, whether it's on Wall Street or Silicon Valley, is attacked by cyber attackers across the world from Russia, Iran, Iraq, Crimea, Ukraine. What we do is, and they use artificial intelligence to do these attacks. What we do is we build technologies which are better than that, which means we have to be up at night, you have to be working hard and figuring it out. Now you can very well tell me, Tushar, if you guys are working so hard, why do we still have problems? Why do we still have security failures? Why do you have people utilizing, let's say AI for putting wrong kind of content in front of kids? Why do you fail? I will quote something for you, which P. Chidambaram, I'm not going to take politics into play, but I'm just quoting him. P. Chidambaram, the former Home Minister and Finance Minister of India, told in 2012. He said that as Home Minister of India, I hardly sleep in night. The reason is, if terrorists are trying to attack us in 12 different ways, we have to make sure all 12 of them fail. The reason is, if any one of them succeeds, we have failed. So he said, we have to succeed all the 12 times, terrorists have to succeed only once. And that applies to every area, whether it's online safety, leveraging artificial intelligence for something wrong, making security breaks or cyber attacks. You got to be way ahead of the game of people who attack you. So essentially, to answer your question, three things. Number one, you need to get right laws, regulations in place. Number two, we got to have a way to enforce the laws so that it's enforced in the right way. And third, we got to build technologies which are better than people who are trying to attack us. The combination of the three is what's going to be, going through. Having said that, it will always be a cat and mouse game. Sometimes we will be ahead of the criminals, sometimes they will be ahead of us. But as long as people in power, politicians and bureaucrats have the right intention, have the right motivation, have the right way of thinking, not to side with the criminals, but with the common masses, we should be in good shape in long term. Hopefully that answers your question, Swati, to whatever extent I could. I'm certainly not as smart and as creative as people like you, but I can, this is the insight I can give to you. You're muted, Swati.
Thank you so much, Tusharji. I think you've given a very good answer. I was hoping that there would be something more from the technology community that would come. We do understand law enforcement, laws and catching the criminals and all of that. But because technology is not like a road is very easy to understand. It's part of our daily life. A gun is not difficult to understand. It's part of our daily life. But technology is something that is much more secret, much more wrapped in jargon, much more hard to penetrate for ordinary people, even politicians, I dare say, or rulers, or even lawmakers. So therefore, I do feel that just as a documentary filmmaker, I feel responsible for my community, for what people within my community do as a social responsibility, and how do we carry out our daily work as responsible citizens who owe it to our people, to keep things going well, to keep things good, and to curb what is wrong within ourselves. That is self-regulation. So as a community, do technologists have any self-regulation, or is it just market forces?
Completely agree with you, and I will answer that in a minute before we can move to other questions. Swati, the technology community, first of all, I'll take your thoughts back to the community. I run a global forum of IITians across the world. You'd be surprised. The number of people who want good things to happen is typically more than the number of people who want bad things to happen. We are certainly committed. That's one of the reasons why you have research work being done in top universities of the world. You have government funding these kind of research. People like me and IITians across the world have been working on developing these technologies. We are certainly committed, we are aware of it, and we have been working upon it. It's just that, as you clearly mentioned, the road and guns are easy to view. Intense mind of cyber criminals and people who misuse them is a little bit tougher. But trust me, we are much more smarter, we are committed, and I have to really thank India's educational system for producing some of the top brains of the world, especially from the IITs who are in US and other places to build these technologies, and they are really working at the forefront of it. Is the battle won? Absolutely not. Is this going to be a long and tough fight? You bet. Are we going to give up? That certainly is not happening. So that's our commitment. Thank you, Swati. Ajay, go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you, Swati, and thank you, Tushar. I have a rejoinder question to what Swati ji asked.
Sure, absolutely.
Now, see, I can understand that you guys are very committed, but see what, and it requires a lot of effort to build technologies and to keep the safer technologies a step ahead than the technologies that are used by the criminals, right? But building safer and technologies and being up to the task, up to the speed requires money and requires investment. And building safe technologies or technologies to prevent child pornography or child sexual abuse material are, they do not fetch money, right? And building technologies to misuse or promote or cause abuse or harm or risk, it is a business. So how do we counter that? Because see, building safer technologies doesn't make much business sense. Nobody kind of funds it, or it does not generate that kind of money from the public as something which is evil does. So how do
very good question. This reminds me, and no, please do not consider this to be a wrong comment, but reminds me of the place I grew up called Sindri in Dhanbad. And Dhanbad as a district was famous for mafias. And it was much better to become a mafia to amass a big fortune than to be an honest policeman, because you might get actually sought someday, right? So let's, leaving aside the specific name of the mafias and politicians we knew about. Ajay, you touched a very interesting point. Internet has become commercial. It has got market forces directing it, and people who can make money by misusing technology or misdirecting or misguiding our youth have much more powerful, have much more deeper pockets, right? But then that's where society, government, democracy comes into play. For example, US government, or for that matter, other elected governments in the world have huge budgets, and it's like police, right? So they have budgets to essentially put some law enforcement agencies on the cyber side, on the online side, into play to work their way through it. Number two, there's a lot of university research grants which come in, which especially both in India and top schools as well as in world, where you can develop this technology. Now, there are market forces also in play to help you. For example, if I have to subscribe to some kind of a website or some kind of internet service provider at my home, for example, and I've got a kid who is 13 years old, I'm not going to take something for my internet service if I'm not convinced it's going to be safe for my son. So the company who's selling, giving my internet service provider may not care about the safety of my child, but I care about it. So I'm going to be basically acting as a pressure on them to develop technology which can make my kid and my home safe. It's the other way around that it works. When that works, it also puts pressure on the government agencies, the research funding to develop technologies which aids them. Essentially, at the end of the day, public sector and private institutions have to come together to build solutions which are really viable, can be easily implementable and deployable. And the market forces act when so the way you have to basically get the market forces to act is to make the end consumers aware of their rights, challenges, problems, difficulties, trials, and tribulations. When they get aware of it, right, and when they demand, we need something safer. It's like thinking about it like this, right? Given a choice, I'm sorry to disparage, but it's truth. Given a choice, politicians in any part of the world won't give a damn to, roads, electricity, poverty, law and order. It's when you go for the elections and the people really, come back and ask them questions, then it puts pressure on them that they need to deliver results to actually come back into power. I'm just giving an example. Same thing happens. So two or three things are happening. Awareness of and the consumers that what they are doing requires them to do something good, work their way through that, and demand the market forces to basically provide them with services and products which are good for them. Number two, law enforcement agencies essentially funding research which basically counters them over a period of time, and then bringing public sector and private sector together, because those are the forces which are going to basically bring these things to happen. Is this that simple? Absolutely not. Is this a battle which has been won? No, no way. However, the very fact that today somebody of your stature and your organization is holding a conference on this for 2 days, the fact that it has motivated somebody like me to come and basically interact with the audience, is going to go live on YouTube. Thousands of people will listen to it. We are educating people of their demands and rights, their privileges and challenges, their opportunities, and democracy basically teaches you to ask the right questions, right? What is the reason why in dictatorship they never want education to flourish? Because education helps people ask questions. When people ask questions, things change. The combination of these forces is what's going to act, Ajay, and it's certainly moving in the right direction over a period of time.
Thank you so much, Tushar. Any other question? Anybody else wants to ask a question?
I see somebody, gentleman called Yogesh Kumar, joining from Police Academy in Jodhpur. Is that correct, Mr. Yogesh?
Yogesh works with Pratidhi Police Foundation. It is a police foundation in Delhi. So it is an NGO and Delhi Police collaboration.
Amazing, amazing. I mean, Yogesh, I want to thank people like you who basically have been trying to bring what is called humanity, sensitivity, care, a kind of, social obligation in the minds of the police department and help them change their image. I'm pretty sure they all want to do good for the society, but I think people like you help bridge the gap and address the concerns. So I'm really thankful to people like you.
Thank you, Tushar. Thank you so much.
I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, Yogesh ji, anytime.
No, it's okay. You have already shared lots of experiences and information with us. Thank you so much.
So Ajay, given that I think I have another 4 or 5 minutes to go, correct?
Yeah.
What I would like to, the departing thoughts for the audience would be, first of all, thanks. The very fact that we are having this particular conference, the very fact that we all have aggregated from different parts of the world. I'd shared the information about your, conference with thousands of people in US and across the world. So people will certainly go and check your content over a period of time. That is the first step towards success. That's the first step that we can take to make people aware. That's the stepping stone for figuring out long-term solutions to problem. It's only when we start talking about something, no matter how uncomfortable the topic is, no matter how touchy the subject matter may be, no matter how sensitive the issue may be, it's when we start talking, when we start having a conversation, that the dialects open up, and then over a period of time, you basically get to a resolution, a touching point, a finishing point from where you can go. That's the first thing I want to really thank the organizers for it. Number two, my friends, technology is going to stay. Learn to embrace it, learn as much as possible about it, and also figure out how to control it to the best possible extent from whatever sources and techniques that you are aware of. Third, as far as kids are concerned, I was having a conversation with Ms. Gauri recently. It's very clear that, welcome, I saw this message from Mr. Navdeep Singh for Delhi Civil Defense. I greatly respect such organizations, Navdeep ji. Parents cannot abdicate the responsibility that they have for their kids. No amount of regulation, laws, control can prevent your kid from going in the wrong direction if you do not make your kids your priority. When they come back from school, make sure that if they're watching or seeing computer or whatever they're watching, make sure doing it in a place in house where anybody can see, right? Spend time with your kid, talk to them. One of the reasons they go for online kind of stuff is when parents are not available. One thing you have to remember, the reason we respect teachers like Gauri or others is because they gave their time to us. Still now I can probably reach out to her for guidance. This is a very critical element in life. Parents have to play the role. Computer and internet cannot replace parents. You spend time with your kids, understand them, connect with them so that their mind does not go in a wrong direction. They do not go to seek answers at places which have an incentive to misguide them. So that is a very critical component of it. And fourth, make sure, be aware and put pressure on your law enforcement agencies and regulators to let them know that you are not some kind of pawn on the chessboard who can be used for making money through free advertisements, which a lot of these people do. Those are my closing thoughts, Ajay. I think we are moving in the right direction. A lot more, uh, you know, a lot more consensus has to be built. A lot of people have to come together, and that way we can march forward. Those are my closing thoughts. Happy to take any last question that you have in next 1 minute. Otherwise, it's both a pleasure and honor to be here. Interact with people like Swati, Yogesh Ji, Navdeep, everybody. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Tushar, and thank you for pointing out that and coming it mainly from your mouth that technology is here to stay. We have been saying it that technology is here to stay, and we have to embrace it for the good. Learn what harm it causes, what are the risks. So we are working in that direction of building preventive modules. But when it comes to technology which is causing harm, which cannot be kind of covered by education or building skills. So we also need to learn about which are those technologies, and you did talk about which are those technologies. And it really becomes difficult to learn those technologies and what harm they can cause and what are the preventive steps. But with people like you on board with us, whom we can reach out to, and your global IIT forum on artificial intelligence and machine learning, if we can work together, then we will be having these kind of readily available thoughts and knowledge and skills for our audience, because we work with huge lot of people, with the academic and the school community, with the universities, with colleges, and with hospitals working on the mental health dimensions, on the behavioral issues. So thank you so much, Tushar. And we are not saying bye to you. So it is just that we are saying bye to you on this meeting. So
right. And Ajay, and I do have a request. I'm seeing some really good messages from people like Amrendra, Sonali, and everybody. Once this conference is over, I would be grateful to you if the organizers can send me a video link of the last half an hour of my conversation, because I would like to spread it out to thousands of people through my social media channels so that they can go and listen to it. Not because it's going to take me through somewhere in my own life, but I want them to understand and learn that these kind of forums exist who are addressing these tough challenges. And when these tough challenges are being addressed worldwide, then people will learn much more and will accomplish their objective. Thank you, my friends. Have a good day, a very successful conference. Keeping in touch. Thank you, Ajay. Thank you. I'll take
so
your
much,
leave now.
Tushar.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. So this was Tushar talking to us from California. Now we have Swati ji who will be talking to us. And Swati ji, a lot of you might be knowing her. She just spoke on this forum also. And Swati ji is a documentary filmmaker, as she has introduced, and she is a quite renowned filmmaker, and she is working on film on CSAM, on child pornography right now. I think she has already completed her shooting, and the work on the desk that is continuing. And if you might know her, many of you might have interacted with her already. She has been the research head of Satyamev Jayate and the co-director of Satyamev Jayate, that famous program which was hosted by Mr. Amir Khan. So, and she'll be talking mainly about what has been her experience of the darker crimes, how and what challenges has she faced. And she will be also talking to the forum today about what helps does she want going ahead, and how she wants to be connected with it, with her endeavors, and she can contribute. Over to you, Swati ji.
Ajay ji, thank you so much for this very kind introduction. I'm actually truly humbled, because I don't know if I even deserve to be on this forum, because all of you here have been working for years and years on issues related to the safety of children. I am but a filmmaker and therefore an observer. So I'm coming in with only a very small experience of what I have seen during the process of research and filming for my documentary in the last roughly 2.5 years. And I owe a debt of gratitude to you, Ajay ji, Yogesh ji, Sonali, and so many probably others who have helped me to shape my understanding of this space. I am not an expert technologist or even a child prevention person or a legal person. I'm coming from a very emotional space actually, because all effective communication works because it carries a core of emotional connect. In Satyamev Jayate, we used to say, "Dil pe lagegi to baat banegi." And my experience with researching the explosion of child sexual abuse material online in India has actually been extremely heartbreaking. And what I have felt is that adults have created a world that children have stepped into. And adults have created a cruel world, a vicious world, a world in which criminals, patriarchal systems, perversions have been given a turbocharged power to commit crimes without leaving an imprint, without leaving any semen or saliva or hair, without even being co-located with the victim. But the harm is so real, and the perpetrators, not one, not two, not 10, but hundreds, thousands, and sometimes even tens of thousands of people. And the NCRB has told us that in the year 2020, there was a 400% rise in the registration of FIRs of cyber crimes against children. The bulk of these related to child sexual abuse materials online. And what I fear, if I were to take a little bit from what Tusharji said, that it is a cat and mouse game and we have to be 2 steps ahead of the criminals. Well, I do feel that in this case, we are 10 years behind the criminals. And all of us are trying to play catch up with a problem that has already spiraled and gone out of hand and perhaps reached a proportion that all of us also may not probably have been able to grasp fully. There is a very beautiful story about a forest that caught fire and all the animals were running away. The elephants, the tigers, everybody was running away. But there was a sparrow that kept flying towards the fire. And people asked her, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I'm carrying a drop of water in my beak because I want to put the fire out." And people laughed at her. But she said, "At least I will try." When I look at the issue of CSAM, because I have now been working on this issue for more than 2 years, I have met police officers, I have met perpetrators, I have met social workers, psychologists, teachers, principals, members of NGOs who are working on the subject, and most heartbreakingly, victims and their families. And what I feel that all of us here, like you, Ajay ji, or you, Yogesh ji, Mala ji, and so many others, we are the sparrows. You are the sparrows carrying those drops of water onto the forest fire that has actually raged. And the trouble with this is that the ones who created the fire are not willing to take responsibility and accountability, and even now are unwilling to let us into the secrets of what is it that they created that could actually set off this massive, massive forest fire. I think that the people who created these shiny toys that we call social media, that we call the internet, that we call high-speed internet, that we call mobile phones and mobile phones with cameras, probably had, I hope they had, some intelligence and some understanding of the social reality of our country. And today, what I see is that these toys are so seductive, so addictive, so all pervasive, that even our reward systems, what we value, what we think is good, what we think is helpful for us, has been completely changed. The paradigm has shifted. The reward systems have been rewired. Tusharji mentioned parents must talk to their children, must make time for their children. I'm a parent of 2 children. Certainly we should I'm also a grandmother. We should certainly make time for our children. But will making time for our children alone help us against the massive, mammoth, powerful giant that is these shiny and seductive toys that we call social media, because they have tapped deep into the psychological wiring of generations. And I'm saying this with a sense of responsibility now, after seeing what all I have seen, that all of us here are 10 years behind the harm that has already happened. And somewhere, COVID and the fact that we have had to give sanctioned access to children to devices, while we adults continue to have to live our lives, we have to cook, we have to clean, we have to look after our old people, we have to go to our jobs, we have to earn our money. Children are going to be unmonitored for certain times in the day with sanctioned access and to the internet. And who is accessing the children? And what are the children accessing at a time when they are 7, 8, 5-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, who do not have the understanding or the social skills to even comprehend what they are seeing and what they are encountering? The world has kind of gone, for me, from where I stand today, the world has gone a little mad. I feel that when these shiny toys of social media were created, the fault lines in our societies already existed. We know about patriarchy, we know about abuse, we know about perversions, we know about the vulnerability of children. Why is it that the prevention, the education, and the protection aspects were not thought through at the time of creation? Why is it that people like you were not told 10 years back, this is what scenario could unfold? And this is where I feel that technology keeps secrets. It keeps secrets from us even today. Even as technology says, we are here to help, we're trying to make the world a better place. Of course, technology is. But where technology is not being honest is about the harm. And I do feel that technology is putting the entire responsibility of safe use only on users. But how can we as users use it safely if we are not warned about its dangers well before we enter it? I want to give you a simple example of a gas cylinder and a gas stove. Why is it that we have ISI mark? Why is it that we have certain regulations? Because the creators have been told, तुम ये घर में नहीं भेज सकते, तुम इसको बेच नहीं सकते market में. This can explode, this can take lives, this can kill. And therefore, you have to maintain certain safety standards, and you have to let your consumers know how it has to be used and what can be its dangers. Has technology done that job of warning all of us who are today vulnerable, slaves, and I dare say wide open to criminality, which has got turbocharged boost because the crime can now be committed from long distance? And I feel that what I have seen of CSAM is so soul destroying. It is so heartbreaking. And not only of CSAM, but of revenge pornography, of sextortion, that the deepest vulnerabilities of human society have been, उन्होंने निचोड़ लिया है उसको. And wherever were the cracks, wherever were the fault lines, criminals have entered, and people who would not ordinarily have committed a crime in real life are emboldened to commit crimes which are terrible, which are disgusting, and which leave an imprint on a victim for lifetime, and are never caught, and they are getting away with it. So this is the scenario that I have seen. The harm is very real. And I can tell you that I did research for Satyamev Jayate. We had a lot of very dark topics. I single-handedly traveled for 40, 45 days across the country, talking to women who had forcibly had to go 7 and 8 and 13 abortions for carrying a girl child. That broke my heart. It took me to Vipassana meditation for 10 days. I couldn't deal with it. But I'm therefore, what I'm trying to say is that I'm used to listening to people's stories of pain. But the stories of pain that I'm seeing today in CSAM, I'm unable to recover from it. I'm unable to recover from it. I want to tell you something, which is something that I have not shared. I'm a survivor of aggravated sexual assault as a child. And this assault started when I was 7 years old. Today, 50 years later, I still feel the burden of that abuse. But I thank the universe today that my abuser didn't have a mobile phone, that my abuser didn't have a camera in his hand, that my abusers, and there were many, did not have high-speed internet or social media to continue to abuse me and invite the entire universe to abuse me again and again and again. Because this is the truth of CSAM. I want to share with you about how real the harm is. I recently met the grandmother of a 12-year-old child who was groomed online and whom the sexual harm has been immense. The child has been out of school for 1.5 years. The mother has had a nervous breakdown. The father has abandoned the family. The younger sister has been forced to, at the age of 8, become the psychological and emotional support for her broken older sister, who refuses to come out of her room, who refuses to eat. And the grandmother, who had a job, has given it up to become the support system for this family. And the grandmother told me that she fears every day for the life of her daughter, the mother of this girl, because she fears कि वो कहीं आत्महत्या की कगार पे है on a daily basis. And I'm saying that this harm is very real, and the more vulnerable the child, the more vulnerable CSAM makes the child. I want to end by saying that we all have a collective culpability, some more and some less. We have a collective accountability. We have a collective responsibility to be honest. If the ones who have created the shiny toys don't stand up and be honest about the harm they have done, and if law enforcement does not stand up and be honest about how blind or how backdated they are, and if all of us as a society don't stand up and be honest and say we are all seduced by this, now let's all work together to protect our children, I don't see any future. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And if I have hurt anyone's sentiments, I apologize, but this comes from a deep sense of pain and despair.
Thank you so much, Swati ji, for your exhaustion and calling upon everybody to work jointly on this. And we are with you in kind of understanding what it takes for every child. Meaning, yes, and you are very true that that abuse and that exploitation increases manifold when it goes on the net, because then it distributes and travels across the world, and it is definitely a different scenario altogether when we didn't have the internet. Abuse definitely was there, child sexual abuse material definitely was there, but it was very easy to identify for the police and the law enforcement to take identify those, say, books or photographs in physical copies or even compact discs. But when it is on the cloud, then the digital footprint is like for always, and it distributes and it gets shared. So it's a really tough call for us. And definitely, yes, we all need to work together. We, as you say, that the community which is working on the prevention and the redressal side is about 10 years behind the criminals who are the perpetrators and who are these plotters. So that kind of meaning that collaboration of technocrats and the lawmakers and the law enforcers and the regulators and people who have their eyes and ears closer to the society and the community and the children, they all need to work together. And yes, this is definitely a great call, and especially people like you who have a wider outreach, because you work in a medium which has a larger outreach, and we welcome you on board with this alliance, and definitely your role is very, very important. That role which we all cannot take upon ourselves, and we are not equipped, and we do not have that kind of a skill which you and your team and your community has. So the community, the media community, is also very, very important in this crusade that we are. And Sonali, as you are pointing us, she is writing, and we have been talking a lot about this Sonali and me and many others, that we need to bring all stakeholders on board. It cannot just be the responsibility of the government or the NGOs, which generally people think it should be. It has to be law enforcement, lawmakers, regulators, academia, the doctors, the psychologists, the psychiatrists, because this is a multi-dimensional problem that we are facing. And yes, definitely the technocrats, because and we are glad to have Tushar, people like Tushar and his forum on board with us, who are technocrats with a good heart, and they are ready to give their time, because technology, why technology has been causing harm, because the effort that is needed to create safe technologies doesn't fetch money. It is not commercially that kind of lucrative or viable. So but that is why the state is, that is why the government is, that is why we have institutions like yours and ours, and we need to work together. Thank you so much, Swati. Thank you so much, and we will keep connected. Now we have Miss Mala Sham. She works with State Child Protection Society in Manipur. She is the program officer there, and she has a lot of experience working with child welfare committees, juvenile justice board, district child protection units in the different districts. And of late, she has also been seeing, and we have been talking about how this type of crime is coming to the fore a lot. The crime which is committed through the use of internet and digital media, and especially be it through social media or through internet gaming or through other channels. And what are the different kinds of meaning issues that she has been facing, because they get a lot of issues and reports from their district units. So over to you, Mala, and talking to her after her intervention, Yogesh, because they work in a similar kind of field, and Yogesh leads police foundation and geo-police collaboration. So Yogesh ji and Mala, over to you, Mala, and then both of you can have a brief
sorry
discussion.
to interrupt you, Ajay. There is, I think the Sonali wants to raise a point. I think this is in context to Swati. So can we take it first, or then we can go ahead?
If it takes, because we are quite tight on time, so
Right.
Sonali, if it takes just about a minute, then please. Sonali.
Thank you so much. We can discuss it later. No issues. I think we'll stick to the time, sir.
Okay. Thanks, Sonali. So over to you, Mala. Mala, you are muted.
Malaji, please.
Oh, thank you, Ajay. Finally, I was trying to unmute myself, but the host didn't allow me. Anyway, thank you, and it was really enlightening to listen to Ma'am Swati, ma'am, especially, and Mr. Tushar also, for all the technical inputs that we had, and perhaps the orientation that I will be bringing about in this discussion would be a little different from what we already had, but ultimately it will land up with the same problem of cyberspace and cybersecurity and all this cyber crimes. So finally, being from a state, since we are all gathered here on the same platform from different corners of the world, I would like to introduce myself as a person from a place which is called Manipur, which is in the easternmost part of the northeastern most part of India, and where I would like to give a little highlight about this place also, so that we can relate to what are the social issues, and then ultimately which is affecting the cybercrime policy here also. So some of the basic idea that I would like to highlight about Manipur is that it lies in the border area with Myanmar, and it is also part of the Golden Triangle with Vietnam and Laos, where drugs are being smuggled. And this is a trade route to India for all kinds of illegal stuff, including heroin, ganja, and so many things. And it has been raised in many of the platforms for drug trafficking and other NCRB issues. and NAB issues, narcotics and border affairs issues. And beyond that, it is also pertinent to highlight that we have more than 40 different ethnic people, community living in the state. And this also gives rise to different diverse and vulnerabilities amongst and in between the community also. And this has also given rise to different people outlaw group, what we call underground outfits, fighting or waging wars of independence, or maybe some of them having different objectives and all these things. And beyond this, again, when I was conducting a research for the Childline India Foundation, while I was with Childline way back in 2007-8, the then former DGP of Manipur, Director General Police of Manipur, he had replied to one of my questions, stating that, see, lady, this is a disturbed area which has been declared under the Indian Constitution. So that means most of the law enforcement agencies, they are more or less busy and preoccupied with the counterinsurgency issues. So it is really difficult to pay attention to all other socially related or the grassroots level issues related with women and children. So ultimately, this gives a pointing point. It gives an indicator towards the fact that the issue of cybercrime or any other problems that rises in the state of Manipur is in the backseat as of now. No doubt, there has been registered cases. There has been so many reported cases. Even we have negotiated with the police. We have sent so many reports, and we have also reported many cases also. But somehow the outcomes, or maybe the intervention, has been already in the backseat. Maybe perhaps because of the law enforcement agencies getting so busy within courts with the counterinsurgency issues, unquote. That is one area where I would like to point out. So what Ma'am Swati was speaking about, I would like to continue on those lines. Since I'm working with children here, it's not a new thing that the children are being affected due to the lockdown, or maybe because of the COVID. Children are having online classes, and ultimately children are getting addicted to gaming and all these things. So when I had my discussions with some of my colleagues who are all clinical psychologists, and they used to say this has become a mental disease again. So another disease has cropped up just because of the addiction to games. And because of this, there has been a lot of disorientation in their personalities, and then there has been a lot of disruptions in their lives. Unfortunately, a little more beyond this, there has been a lot of cases which has been reported where girls, and not only girls, even boys are included. We have a case, to be really honest. I would share one of the issues which is very like different from the other parts of India, that one girl has been charged with POXO in the state of Manipur. And this is also a little relevant with what we had with the internet connectivity between the children. Like she could establish a rapport with the boy, and ultimately there were some sexual encounters later on, and then uh, the girl has been charged with POXO by the parents of the boy. So she's in the observation home right now. Even though I won't be disclosing much about that as per the law of Section 74 of JJ Act. So it's very pertinent to point out that there are girls and boys who have been affected with the lockdown, and there has been reported cases. And this is also very true at the level, India's level, nation's level, when the Honorable Minister of Women and Child, Madam Smriti Irani ji, had pointed out in the winter parliament session that there has been 250% rise in the number of children who have been reporting about cybercrime and online child sexual abuse. So coming to those lines, I would also say that there has been a lot of cases which has been reported by girls to the police. And the challenge is the girls would be asked to go to a police station, nearest police station in the first place. And second thing is, even if you report it online through the portal, which has been given by the Ministry of Home Affairs, even then also the complainant is required to go and report to the nearest police station. The nearest police station would refer the case to the cybercrime police station, which we have only 2 in the state. We are 16 districts in the state of Manipur, but cybercrime police station has been set up only in Imphal East and West. That is only 2 out of 16 districts. So anybody who has a report from any other out of these 2 districts has to come down to these 2 police stations for follow-up. And then ultimately, whenever there is a report which involves with Facebook, for instance, or maybe with YouTube, then ultimately the police would be giving the answer that, no, we need to get in touch with the Facebook. We have already sent a request to Facebook to pull down the materials which has been already uploaded. And we are waiting for a response from them. We are trying to locate it. We are trying to locate the perpetrator who has uploaded it and this and that. So this goes on. Perhaps this is one of the reason why people have lose faith in, going out and reporting to the police. I'm not talking about the police taking up, all these kinds of cases on a lower level, or maybe taking it at a secondary level, but perhaps maybe because it's out of maybe ignorance, or maybe because maybe lack of infrastructure. It could be one of the problems, or maybe because they are not aware that they are bound by the law and they are bound to intervene, and perhaps this could be one of it. So we need to sensitize. We can't just keep on pointing our fingers at the police, because police are the only first contact point for each and every one of us who is having a problem with domestic violence, with cybercrime, with fraud, with kidnapping, with trafficking, everything, whatever we would say. So ultimately, one area is we need to, make a stronger platform for the law enforcement agencies when we are talking about cybercrime, and people like Mr. Tushar would be very helpful, and your knowledge, your ideas are very, very appreciated, because we need IT community to come into the picture. We need, as Ajay had also pointed out, as Ma'am Swati had also pointed out, we need people from different backgrounds coming in together to bridge the gap between the administrators and the police, or maybe with the policy makers, so that we can point out these are the areas, these are the gap areas, these are the problems, these are the issues which we are facing as of now. Otherwise, the problems that Ma'am Swati had been pointing out, that children have been deliberately made victims of sexual abuse or sexual assault without even having a physical contact under POCSO and all this, it will go on. And until unless we bring up a platform, or we make a bridge between the policymakers and the academia, the IT community, and people like us who are interested in, combating such kind of cyber crimes and creating a cyber security for children in our country. And moreover, another concern for me is that since majority of the Indian population belongs to the rural area, let's think about it. And even in the state of Manipur, we have 71% in the rural area and 29% in the urban area. As for the Indian context also, it's more or less the same. 68% lives in the urban rural area, and remaining 32% lives in the urban area. Delhi, with 97% in the urban area, will have a little reluctance in having a feel of the rural area, because rural area has a lot of other other issues of its own. So people who are having access to internet, or people who are getting access to social media, or people who are getting used to all this internet connectivity, they would be facing, or their children would be facing, is also another issue, I feel, because we haven't reached out on a mass awareness level, or we haven't met any of those people who are living in the rural areas understand that cybersecurity is a big problem for you, that cybercrime is a stalker for you, for your children, or the children or the women or the girls who have been exposed to the internet could be facing a lot of issues. Now, coming back to Manipur, as Ajay had pointed out that I'm working with the government system, I'm really sorry to say that I'm speaking perhaps some few lines which are against the government, but these are the fact, like what we have. When we go to the police station, or when we have reports, as a system, as a child protection society, or maybe as a district child protection unit, we would be referring the case to register it, an FIR with the cybercrime. But unfortunately, there are many instances where the police would be calling water parties after, locating the culprit and then trying to negotiate it at the police station, or maybe, making it out of the police station and then let the parties negotiate in between them and all these things. So ultimately, there are also cases where, it would involve girls who are below 18 years. So when we are talking about it, there would be rather issues where the non-reporting of sexual abuse for the girls would be there. The sections under POCSO could also be invoked. So when we talk to the police again, they would be like, oh, we were not aware of this, and so on and so on. So ultimately, my point is, when Ajay has started this kind of a forum, let's try to make a team where we can reach out to the states, where we can reach out to the stakeholders and try to make them liable to be understood, that there are certain responsibilities which are to be carried out by certain stakeholders, including the people who are at the government level, people who are in the law enforcement agencies, or maybe the researchers. We could all come together and then ultimately make a module, make a plan, reach out to each and every state, and then state wise we can plan out some strategies to reach out to people, ultimately to make them aware, and then ultimately to help the law enforcement agency to intervene in such cases as well. And for such matter, people who are here today would be very helpful. And if there are any other areas where we could discuss later on, I would be ready to, I'll be glad to highlight on that. But as of now, I'll end up my sharing here. Thank you, Ajay, everyone.
Thank you, Mala. And over to Yogesh, if you want to add something or have a conversation. You guys have about 5 more minutes, 5-7 minutes more. Do we have Yogesh? Yogesh ji?
I think he's having some internet related issues. You can continue. You can go ahead.
Okay. So in his absence, let me try to fill in his role. Mala, I just wanted to understand how your systems are connected to mainly the State Child Protection Society when you are in the capital and your district units, and what is the modus of coordination between your district child protection units and your child welfare committees and juvenile justice boards and the police, and when it comes to the matter of reporting of certain issues or certain crimes from, say, the children or the parents or through teachers. So how does the coordination happen? Because when it is a crime not on the internet space or the online space, we understand how it happens. But when it is a crime which happens on the virtual space, so how does that coordinate, and what kind of difficulties have your colleagues posed to you from the districts? Because in terms of collecting evidence or reporting to it or trying to, because if it has been committed in the digital space, in the online space, so what problems have you faced, and
Ajay,
how do you think it can be overcome?
I got your question now. I was so inquisitive to come to the point, because since we have a paucity of time, see, one Ma'am Swati has also asked a question. Yes, I'll come back to you, ma'am. One of the problem is that the working system of child protection system in India, especially under CPS or under ICPS, now we call it Child Protection Scheme. Now, it has been already confined with the procedures of the TRJ Act or the guidelines of the Government of India under WCD Ministry. Now we call it Mission Vatsalya. So under this, The problem is the monitoring system or the reporting system are all laid out. So the district units, whenever they submit a report, it has to be on the monthly basis. They have given a prescribed format. Or for the NCPCR, again, they have given a prescribed format. It has to be reported every month, every week. So Juvenile Justice Board has been given a different format. So ultimately, when there are cases which are out of the issue, out of the purview, or maybe when there are cases which are coming in to be really difficult to handle, then only they call out for distress calls. They reach out for the state level as a distress call. Otherwise, the guidelines, the kind of procedures which have been already laid out are so strictly adhered to, because we are supposed to. So ultimately, when there is a case which has been reported in, say, in Bishnupur district of Manipur, then ultimately the case has to be reported first to the police station, and then ultimately the child welfare committee would be connected, or maybe will be contacted for the rehabilitation of the girl child, or maybe to get in touch with her, and the CPU, District Child Protection Unit, would be facilitating all this. And then if one of the culprit happens to be, the offender happens to be a child, then ultimately the child will be produced to the JZB, and all this are reflected only in the monthly report. So the guidelines which are here for the schemes for the protection of children need to be reviewed. I guess there are certain areas where we need to review again. There where we need to highlight some of the areas where this compartmentalized system of reporting. No doubt, we have to monitor everything, but when you're talking about case wise, reporting the cases, it's really difficult because it has to come in a compiled way. So that is the limitation we have with the monitoring system. And tying up with the police, again, police are also working independently, and then ultimately the cases are also pending because the police are also overloaded with their work, and the final report FR which has to be submitted to the juvenile justice boards are taking a backseat. So ultimately, there is a system where it has been compartmentalized, and there has to be a link in between in terms of sharing of cases. Reporting are being done, but these are all one way, and it need to be need to be a little flexible, and then these are being done all based on the basis of the guidelines which have been given by the government of India. So this need to be a little reviewed. That's what I feel.
Thank you so much, Mala, and I am glad that you flagged this on this forum, and I think we'll have a separate session on this separately with you and more audience which is more inclined to work on this and has more awareness and knowledge about this line of work in terms of reporting and coordination between various institutions and organizations and agencies working with the juvenile justice system. And thank you so much, and we'll remain connected. I hope that Yogeshji could talk to you live on this forum, but I think Yogeshji had some issues. And now I welcome the next speaker. If we have Dr. Dhaval Gupta with us, Dr. Dhaval Gupta has joined. He is Scientist E with Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. Welcome, Dr. Dhaval Gupta. He is a PhD from IIT Delhi. So he is a technocrat and he works with Cyber Law Division of Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. So he is kind of the backbone of the lawmakers of our country, of the state, of the government, because this is the division which works on it. So we are glad to have you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
And he will be talking to us with his experience and giving a message to all of us.
Thank you very much, sir. And I am honored to have such an esteemed gathering here. And I've listened to Malaji, Swatiji, and it has been very enlightening to see a perspective which is, brings in a lot of problems and also understands the core issues at the ground level. Malaji, your brief introduction about the ground level realities in the North Indian state were very eye-opening in that sense. So my today's intervention is basically what we have done in last couple of years for this particular problem. And of course, we will never say that the problem is solved, but these are the building steps where everybody can come together and initiate certain dialogues. But before I said, let us understand the context of cybercrime a bit in detail. See, as of December 2021, if you understand an internet minute, you are basically saying that there are about 500 hours of content loaded on YouTube per minute, or about 69 million messages are sent on WhatsApp and any textual platforms in a minute. So there is a huge vastness of cyberspace that we must also comprehend, in when we are talking about crime taking on the cyberspace. And also, I would also like to bring to the table the context in which how a cybercrime is slightly more complex and different from a normal crime. See, the virality is the major factor. If I, upload a obscene photograph, the reach of that photographs is tremendous within a very, very short period of time. Also, the perpetrator or the person who is uploading this is sitting in a room, being anonymous in that context, and it is very difficult to track and track such thing. But nevertheless, government in this respect is always committed to a very open, safe, and trusted and accountable internet, and we have made certain due diligence in that respect also. But just to begin, I will say that we have an Information Technology Act where we have certain provisions in terms of 67A, B, where we specifically deal with in 67B, we specifically deal with child pornography, and we have substantive quantum of provisions. But that provisions already existed. But in February of 2021, ministry came out with Information Technology Intermediary Guidelines and Code of Media Ethics Code, wherein there was a substantive difference made in terms of two specific provisions, like the CSAM material, if reported, as Malaji was also mentioning, that police has informed them that they have reported to Facebook or let's say any other platform, and there is a CSAM material on that, they have to take it down within 24 hours. That is their timeline. So they cannot shy away from their responsibility. And also, there is a provision which has been introduced, the provision called tracking of the first originator. So if police want to request, provided that this is a sexual explicit material, and they want to request these platforms to tell the information about the first originator, they need to tell that. Also, they have to publish their monthly compliance reports on their platforms. Especially the significant social media intermediaries have to publish their monthly compliance reports. And if you go to their platform and see their monthly compliance report, huge amount of material is being taken down. Of course, that is not solving a problem, because the problem itself involves many pillars. But millions of such obscene material, including CSAM material, is being taken down on a monthly basis by all these platforms. Of course, there is a duty of these platforms to have a technology based endeavor, so that they can filter out CSAM material on their own, and they should do due diligence for all these such kind of materials. This is from the legal perspective. Of course, these provisions already exist, and these new due diligence rules are already in play. And we have seen quite a quantum shift in terms of material being taken down. Apart from this, we also, I was just talking to our Ministry of Home Affairs. As Malaji have already mentioned, she also has an experience by Cybercrime Portal. There is a Internet Watch Foundation, if we might have heard. That Internet Watch Foundation, there is a regular mechanism of taking down the child sexual abuse material through CBI. So there is a list which is given to the DOT. That entire material is taken down on a timely basis. This is related to child sexual abuse material. Then all the schools and colleges, CBSE has written to create an awareness in them. But what we have realized over a period of time is that parents are also required to get this awareness. It is not only the teacher and the student community. Apart, for the last 2 years, because of this COVID, we have seen a lot of internet usage. So the awareness session needs to also filter down to the parents to have a ethical use of internet, wherein these kind of material exchange needs to be prevented. So this was my brief introduction about the law and the set. Ajayji, if anything you want to add, and then as on your requirement, I can tell you more details.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. So I think, Dhavalji, you have briefed us about what are the provisions and how the coordination. But you might have heard two speakers before you, and even before you joined, Tushar was talking to us from California, and he was also pointing out that, and even Swatiji was also pointing out that the criminals are about 10 steps ahead of us. And we need to all kind of come together, combine and join forces to be able to, because as the criminals are using artificial intelligence and technologies like machine learning, even the prevention side can use these technologies. But these technologies are based on or built on certain information that are fed into it. That knowledge is fed into the machine so that it can act upon itself. We have to make it learn. So we try to understand from you, meaning if you can throw light about how we can join forces, and what help do you think NGOs can give or the academic community can give?
So thank you, Ajayji. That's a very important part. See, it's not only the policy that will work. I mean, it's not only that the law is created and it will work in the automated mode. There are two important things. Everybody is aware of the Prajula case, wherein a committee was formed at the mighty level, and there were certain recommendations. That was the general rape and gang rape imagery kind of case, but that also led to a technological intervention of these platforms employing certain keyword tactics. When a keyword is fed into that, those keywords will not throw anything out as a result. But again, coming back to the technology aspect, it is the endeavor of the platforms also to develop certain technology interventions which will help to detect at the nascent stage all these possible imagery related to rape, gang rape, and child sexual abuse, and take it down on their own accord. If that is done, at least to some extent, there would be at least a deterrent for viewing of such kind of imagery. Also, there is a policy intervention on these rules where they have to inform on a periodic basis to their users that they cannot upload such content on their internet. But again, the main issue lies to the monitoring part of it, which again, as it is so huge in terms of numbers, it is difficult to monitor the content on a regular basis. It is basically a complaint-driven mechanism, which will lead to takedown. And if everybody is aware, everybody is posting report abuse material, it will lead to more removal of such kind of things on the internet.
Thank you, Dhavalji. I was trying to understand, meaning the proactive screening of the content, which, see, one thing is being reported. The reporting is not done by third person generally, but it is generally done by the person against whom the crime has happened, or his or her family, or the teachers.
Yes.
But I have been talking to different social media companies, and they say that a lot of it has already automated. But the automation, as Tushar was also saying, that automation works on images and videos, but it generally doesn't work very clearly on the language, on the content, which is the language. So, and it becomes really difficult when new types of images, even Shireen will be talking after you, and the new type of, or a little tweak in that same image treats it as a different image, and it passes through that shield or the gate that has been built. So, but I do understand these are matters of technology, but your division is basically a combination of law and technology. If you can throw light about, because Tushar was also saying it is duty of mainly the law to come with the people who are working on the safety side.
Absolutely, sir. See, we need to slightly understand the concept of monitoring the content. You know, if let's say hypothetically everybody is allowed to monitor the content, then it is also an infringement of privacy. See, without monitoring the entire content, nobody will be able to pick up that this content is, if we allow, let's say, that this content is obscene, this content is CSAM. So that path is a very difficult path to choose. And as I've not heard Mr. Tusharji, but he's absolutely right in the sense that, see, they store hashes in their platforms. If 1 second of an image or a video is tweaked, the hash will change, and again the image will be circulated widely. So that is why I told you that in this set of guidelines and rules which have come out in 2021, the government has specifically allowed these social media platforms to take down child sexual abuse material, to provide information about the first originator of child sexual abuse material. And if a complaint is reported to them from law enforcement agencies, they have to take down that material within 24 hours if it involves any kind of nudity. But there is a line wherein these kind of social media platforms can be allowed to, monitor the content in the entirety. That also is a path, which needs to be decided.
Just before you leave this forum today, sir, I just wanted to ask, the social media organizations, these companies, they themselves are, after the intermediate guidelines, they themselves have to be do the monitoring themselves, and they use humans as well as technology to the monitoring. But they are not law enforcers. If there is a violation of law that also carries punishment, what is their mandatory sort of reporting when they have seen something to the law enforcement? Something has come to their knowledge and they have removed it, but it is something which is also a violation of law, and it has penal provisions. So if you can talk about that, because
so they have to report to law enforcement agencies directly.
That is mandatory for them.
Yeah, of course. See, any such kind of imagery, or if it comes to their notice. See, again, one important thing that I would like to also point out, earlier to 2021 rules, there were no positions of these big platforms in India. So an important step has been taken to have a chief compliance officer, a nodal officer, a grievance redressal officer in India. So now they have to talk directly to the law enforcement agencies, and if they come across any such material which is violative of any extent law, they need to report. And if they come across any cyber security incident, they need to report to CERT. So that is already there in the law.
Okay. So these kind of reports, they compile and send it to you monthly, and
so they are not mandated.
There has been an increase.
Yeah, so they are not mandated to send it to the ministry. They have to put these report on their website.
Okay. So how does one know that that there is no gap or there is no lacuna in what they saw and what they reported? Is there a mechanism to find out? Because they would have seen 10 and reported 5. Is just hypothetical question, sir. Because is there a mechanism that whatever they saw, they have reported, and who monitors that? Who regulates that?
No, they have to themselves keep a check on these things. I mean, it will be very difficult to monitor all these things down to a report level.
So any last parting message for the audience today, because this will also be seen on YouTube after this event.
So basically I would like to say is that one important pillar is awareness. And as these platforms, we need to create certain awareness programs. We have a institute, information security education and awareness wing driven by our HRD division. They have created a lot of material. MHA has created a lot of material. I myself go to schools and I have developed material for 6th to 8th class, 9th and 10th class, 11th and 12th class teachers, which basically talks about a basic cyber hygiene. So these kind of programs, if through your platform, if we are, can enable such programs, that will give a basic building block of, promotion of cyber hygiene all across.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gupta, for speaking to us and enlightening us and exhorting us and building the confidence of all the stakeholders on what the government is doing. And it is really heartening to see that a lot is being done, and you all are actually trying to keep your eyes and ears close to the ground and listening to all of us. And we are very, very grateful to you for this. Thank you so much.
I think there is one important question by Malaji about the provision of 24 hours. Yeah, I have that provision. See, this is an intermediary guidelines which has come. So the provision is 32B of these rules. If you see the provision of 32B of these rules, they very specifically talk about the intermediary shall, within 24 hours from the receipt of a complaint made by an individual or any person on his behalf in relation to the content which is primarily facing the nature of any material which exposes private area of such individual, shows such individual in full or partial nudity, or shows or it depicts individual in any sexual act or conduct, or in the nature of impersonation in electronic form, including artificially morphed images also of such individual, take all reasonable practical measures to remove or disable access to such content which is hosted, stored, published, or transmitted by it. So they cannot shy away.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Ji.
And we'll keep connected, and thank you so much. And we are now moving to the next speaker. We have Ms. Shireen Vakil with us. She is Shireen, if you are there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you see me?
Yes, yes. So we have Ms. Shireen Vakil with us today. She is head of safety policy at Facebook, and she is head of safety policy at Facebook for the whole Asia Pacific region, and she is joining us from Singapore. And a lot of you might be knowing Shireen from your extra years of work and association with her when she was with Tata Trust and Save the Children. And we welcome you, Shireen, to enlighten us and talk about what safety provisions are there within Facebook for children, adolescents, and young people. You might have heard Dr. Gupta talk about various things. To let you know about your previous speakers, for Tushar, who had joined from Global IT Forum, he was also saying that we all need to work together because the criminals are kind of lot ahead, and the technologies, we need to invest a lot on the safety technologies, as there is a lot of money being put on the misuse side of the technology. There has to be a lot of investment and joint efforts being put on the safety side of the technologies. And if it is about technology, then one thing is good, that for the criminal side, the law is not on their side, the state is not on their side, the companies or the well-known companies are not on their side. What the well-known companies and the law enforcement and the law and the state is on the side, they are on side of children, they are on side of the young people, they are on side of safety. So welcome, Shireen, because we all know that Facebook is doing a lot and they are also on side of safety. We would like to hear from you. Over to you, Shireen.
Okay, thank you very much, Ajay, and thank you for inviting me here. Good afternoon, good morning to everybody who's participating. I won't kind of give anything further about my introduction beyond what Ajay was saying. I'll just share a few slides just to elucidate some of the work that Facebook, currently known as Meta, is doing on safety, which cuts across our platforms of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, and then soon to be coming up other things. So let me just try and share here. Can you see?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is visible.
Okay, I'm just trying to put it on full screen mode. Okay. So just to start with, we have a zero tolerance approach to child sexual exploitation. I just joined a little bit before, so I didn't hear all the other previous speakers, but I caught Dr. Gupta right at the end. As he said, it is very much why the law is there that kind of mandates companies to report any child sexual abuse imagery. Facebook has been working on this for several years now, decades, over a decade. And one of the things is initially we started by using technology developed by Microsoft, I think, which was photo DNA. So basically to detect the photo so that there's a match, and then you create what is called a hash, which is like a digital footprint. So the machines bring it down, and also there are then human reviewers. But since then, we've actually developed technology ourselves, more sophisticated technology to try and detect things better. And this is open source, so it can be used by any company who wants to do the same and should be encouraged to do that. So we have a kind of 360-degree approach towards safety, child safety and women's safety, but I'm going to talk about child safety today. So that is working in partnerships, because this is very, very critical for us, because even though there are a large number, I think about 35,000 people across the world working on safety, we know that we need to be working with experts like all of you on the ground to inform us as to how our tools are working, what more we need to do, and to get reports from you. We have some specific policies around child sexual exploitation, which basically means what we call community standards, which is basically what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do on our platforms. And then certain tools to give people control, like block, restrict, etc., as well as resources. And then very importantly, feedback, so that we keep hearing from people as to, because things change so fast, and what's working and what's not working. So as I said, we have a diverse team of experts who are working to keep people safe, a lot of people from law enforcement, from legal backgrounds, etc., as well as then, more recently, people like me from the NGO child rights sector to help inform the work so that we can do the best we can to keep kids safe. We partner with over 500 safety partners across the world to constantly, and we have quarterly meetings, and in country we have separate meetings. So we have several partners, I think over 20 safety partners in India, and I hope that many of you are in touch with our team in India. And we also cooperate closely with law enforcement to protect children and make sure we're improving things and give them the information that they require, because as Ajay was saying, we are not a policing organization and we don't have that remit. So we could certainly inform law enforcement, but then it's up to them to do the work. So we have certain policies which are called our community standards and are available. You just go on the Facebook website, type community standards, and you will see them. So child sexual exploitation, abuse, and nudity, we have an absolute zero tolerance approach. So even if you For instance, if it is to do with toddlers, if you post a picture of your own child, it will come down because we don't want to take any chances, a nude, a naked photo. We also look at non-sexual child abuse, which means like corporal punishment, hitting, beating, shaking, slapping, all those kinds of things, as well as sexual child abuse. Bullying and harassment, where there are detailed policies and standards, and suicide, self-harm, and self-injury. So this is an area that we do a lot of work on, and it cuts across, of course, both teens and adults. So some of the things that we remove are content, not just content that has sexual exploitation, but also advocates or tries to promote sexual exploitation of children, content that facilitates inappropriate interactions with children. And we take a kind of preventative approach. So we're trying to work on behavioral signals. So when we see that there are people who are contacting minors, giving them a warning, and based on the amount of times they're doing that, their accounts can be disabled. Contents that show minors in a sexualized content. So what we do is, it's not just the image, we also take the text or the emoji. So even if it's, and that's something that came from feedback from partners, because you can have a quite a innocent looking, picture of a child, and it's not sexualized, but basically then by the caption or the emoji, we know that it is kind of depicting them in a sexualized content. So unless it's for health or educational purposes, this is for older children, then we might keep it up, but that will depend on the human reviewer to see, as well as content depicting non-sexual child abuse or that promotes it. So one of the things that I wanted to just touch upon is the enforcement of these policies and guidelines. So we have a lot of proactive detection, which uses, of course, machines and artificial intelligence for something like child sexual exploitation. And then it is prioritized for review. And there are human reviewers across the world working in different languages 24/7 that are reviewing the material. And one thing to note is that you can report everything and then it's reviewed to see whether it actually violates our policies or community standards. And you only need to report it once. I mean, reporting it 5 times or 10 times won't help. You need to report it once, and you should get a response to that within 24 hours. Where it comes, and we really depend on reports coming to us. And in something like child sexual exploitation, we have a very high rate of takedown, which is about 99% is taken down because before it even goes forward by the detection technology. In other areas, of course, it might vary because they are more nuanced. So there are several things that you can report, and when you click on those buttons on the right, you'll be asked, why are you reporting this post? And under that, if there is a section that says involves a child. So there will be nudity or pornography, but that covers adults as well. So and sexual exploitation or solicitation. But here we have a separate one that's specifically for children. So hopefully that will make it easier to report. And you can do it across Facebook and Instagram. We have some additional protections for minors. So as you know, you have to be 13 to join the platforms. And this is really, really important because the content is made with the thought of this age group in mind. And that's why we look at age-appropriate controls, age-appropriate content, etc. So it's really important for parents and others to make sure that they do not have younger children joining. Many times parents themselves create accounts for kids. So we really need to be clear about that. More restrictive privacy and visibility settings. So for instance, if you join as a minor, your location is automatically off, like no one can see it, or your details, like your personal details are not there, etc. And as I said before, we have complete zero tolerance for child exploitation. Several tools on security, privacy, so your 2-factor authentication, strong passwords, etc. Choosing what you want to share and with whom. So you can create different friends groups. You can have a private profile, public profile. Again, for minors, you're automatically defaulted to a private profile. And even if you try and create a public profile, you will get a pop-up asking you, are you sure you want to go ahead? And this will be viewed by everybody. Obviously, we won't stop someone if they want to create it, but we will kind of give them an alert. Safety features like blocking, restricting, and reporting. And then lots of well-being features like taking a break. If you've spent a lot of time, the message that comes up that says you're all caught up, so you don't have to keep scrolling, so you know there's nothing new for you. And when someone is, maybe sending a bullying comment, something that will pop up saying, are you sure you want to go ahead and send this? So we have a help center, so you can look for it for advice and see how you can get help and what you can do and you can't do. For child safety, this last year, we've created a separate child safety hub. So you go to Facebook and / child safety and you get into it. And it has a whole lot of resources for parents, caregivers, teachers on child safety, as well as a training program that you can click on and go through about all our various tools. And someone was talking about schools. So we have a whole digital literacy program called We Think Digital that is important for all kids, really. As soon as they get digital, and they're getting digital right from the start, they need to know how to keep themselves safe. Just like we tell kids when they go out, how to cross the road, not to talk to people they don't know, those sorts of things we need to be telling our kids, and we need to be informed ourselves. Instagram too has a safety center that you can access with all the various safety tools. Okay, so that was just a sort of snapshot. I'll stop sharing now, so I can't see you, unfortunately. I can see some people, I think, but probably you can see me. So these are some of the things that we do and we will continue to do. And as I said, it's constantly evolving the work that we do. And I think that one of the things is to actually, just as we work offline on child protection, to make people aware of what I think that it's obviously a big, you want kids online because it's a source of empowerment, expression, and in today's day and age, you can't not have kids online, and especially with COVID, all of education has sort of come online. But they also need to know about various risks that are there online and all the various tools that they have to protect themselves. And one thing I just wanted to mention is that last year we did a piece of research as to look at the numbers of, because we report very proactively to NECMEC, which is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and then NECMEC works with law enforcement in India. The question is that the majority comes from India, of the largest, I suppose, because we're so large. And then it's a question for law enforcement here to take action. And that is not that's something for probably civil society. But we looked at what is the reason why there is so much of this on our platforms, what is the nature, what can we do? And what we found was that more than 60% of child sexual material was shared or reshared. So for instance, just 5 images accounted for more than 60% of the cyber tips that we were sending up to law enforcement. So the thing is that with the same picture can be moved, the resolution can be changed, and the human eye can see that this is Ajay, but there's a slight tweak, the resolution is changed. But when it comes to the machines, they pick it up as 5 distinct images. So it means that if the same person is shared and reshared. And then when we did further research as to the behaviors behind that sharing, we saw that over 80% of people were sharing for non-malicious purposes. So they were sharing out of shock, horror, outrage, look at this scenario, look at what's happening to this child, and then they were sharing. It was not kind of bad actors. I mean, there were, of course, 25% were bad actors. But a lot of people were sharing out of shock, horror, outrage, maybe to bring it to the attention of law enforcement. So, and we know that this is illegal. Sharing CSAM is illegal, and it re-victimizes a child. Just like if you keep sharing rape videos, it re-victimizes every time the woman. So we did run a campaign last year with a few organizations in partnership with, I think, in India, Cyber Peace Foundation, ARPAN, and one more, I can't remember, maybe Aram, to have a campaign that tells people to report it and not share it. So that PSA is available if you want to distribute it amongst your platforms, because it's really important for people to report any child sexual abuse material and not share it further. And it's only when we report it that any action can be taken. So that was something I just wanted to share.
Thank you so much, Shireen, for letting us know and sharing what Facebook has in terms of provisions for and strategies for child safety. I think Sonali was asking something about strategies of content removal on WhatsApp. Would you be able to take that question? Or
so WhatsApp is an encrypted surface, as you know. So we can't likely run our machines and on the other surfaces. We can't run it on WhatsApp because it's encrypted, which means we can't see it. Nobody sees it. It's only between the sender and the receiver. But what you can do is you can report it. So if you can still report that content. So if you see a piece of child sexual abuse material and you send that to WhatsApp, there is a reporting link, then we will still take action, which we do. And if we see anything, we can look at obviously the profile pictures, the profile details. So if we see anything there that gives us a warning, or indeed any images of children or something, that would get taken down. But with WhatsApp more than anywhere else, we obviously rely on user reports because we can't run our AI detection or look into it like we can do in the other non-encrypted surfaces.
Thank you so much, Shireen, and glad to hear from you directly that kind of sharing is not reporting. Sharing in expression of awe or anger or surprise or shock is, and saying, oh, look, what this is something which is very, very bad. So it actually increases the trauma of the victim, and it gets reshared and reshared. It's like when there is a traffic jam, then you do not take your vehicle down there and say that I am going to clear the traffic jams. So we need to understand these nuances, and we are glad that Facebook is doing so much about it, and it remains connected to the academia and the NGO community and the government, and you run campaigns also. And very glad to know that you also listen to and take feedbacks from the users and the organizations that are working with the user and the children, so that you remedy it. So we are also, I think there has been a new feature on when there has to be a reporting. We used to ask people to take screenshot, but then I think there is a new feature on when somebody takes a screenshot, then notification goes to the person who is of whose page or whose profile the screenshot is being taken. Is there something?
I didn't understand the question. I think the point is that you can report. There is a button to report, and you have to send the URL. It's really important to send the URL.
And the screenshot also.
You don't have to send a screenshot. You have to send the URL.
Okay. And is there any provision of somebody taking a screenshot, then it goes a notification to, suppose I am taking a screenshot of your profile or your content, then the notification goes to you when I am taking a screenshot. Is there such provision?
No, I don't think so, but I can double check it. No, I know that for reporting and for us to review, we have to get the URLs, because we can then go in and see exactly what it is, because a screenshot could come from anywhere, right?
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So any last comments on safety and how we as community should work together and be careful about when it comes to reporting, especially about reporting, and your linkages or your support that you seek from wider NGO community or the academic community or the government?
I mean, I think that it's really important to report, as I said, and not to share child sexual abuse material or indeed non-child sexual abuse material, but with child sexual abuse material, because it just means that then, like, even when we send it to law enforcement, if I say that only 5 actually images accounted for more than 50%, and we send up a lot. So let's say we're sending up 10, we sent up 5 million in 1 quarter. So then it makes it difficult for even law enforcement to see which ones are actually the high priority, etc. It is so many repeats. So I think it re-victimizes kids. So really important to report and not share. The other thing is really important. My learning in this, I've been in now with Meta for about a year, and my learning is that I didn't myself know how much that you can do, how many tools, features, etc. there are for us as users, and then even more for children. So I think that awareness is really important, and I feel that it should probably become a core part of any curriculum, as well as parents need to be aware, teachers need to be aware, young people need to be aware. And please do not just get your very young kids online. You know, it's not, I know people give mobile phones, etc. Be careful when you do that. And that's why we're looking at, you know, what is age appropriate, what is important. We have something called Messenger Kids, for instance, and that is with full parental supervision. So the parent has to kind of allow the child in and then can see, choose the friend, see that, etc. So that is something I think that needs to be greater awareness and everyone working together to keep kids safe online and offline, of course.
Thank you so much, Shireen, for talking to us, and we'll remain connected and we'll share the reports of the other session, and so that you can have a look on, because it will help improve your work there with Facebook. Thank you so much, Shireen.
Thank you.
And now we have Miss Preeti Mahara. Is Preeti there? Preeti ji? Do we have Miss Preeti Mahara?
Hello.
Preeti ji?
Yes, Ajay, I'm here.
Yeah. So
Can you hear me?
Yes, I'll make you a co-host if you want to make a presentation.
Okay. No, I don't have any presentation.
But still, because I'll make you co-host. So we have Miss Preeti Mahara with us. She is a child rights advocate, and she has a long experience of working in the child rights sector with CRY, with PLAN, and most of you who have gathered together here would be knowing Preeti ji, and she will be talking mainly about the gap between what we are teaching our children and teachers and parents in terms of the knowledge and skill to remain safe online, and what the level of crime and the harm and the risks that is there. So what she says is that there is a mismatch between what we teach our children and what risk and harm they face. So over to you, Preeti ji. And she will be talking.
Hello.
Yes, Preeti.
Okay. Can I go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Namaskar. So first of all, there are the government bodies, civil society organization, private sector, government, all are making efforts, trying to make children, trying to make parents, trying to make the communities, everyone aware of about the digital technologies, their positives, and also the kind of risks that they come with. Today, my presentation will be, and the discussion will be more about, what the emerging issues that children are facing, and what actually we are where we are in our awareness generation related programs or the communication material. So, so digital technologies no doubt have played an important role in the transformation of lives of children and adults, of course, adults also. So most of the time, children use the digital technologies for communicating with friends, as we all know, and family. They express themselves through this medium, explore new concepts, explore about themselves. They engage in gaming and playing and learning, of course. United Nations Convention on the Rights of Child, and we call it UNCRC, is the most widely ratified human rights treaty we know, a human rights treaty in the history, which guides us and mandates states to ensure welfare and holistic development of children. And many of its articles, like children have right to development, right to be heard, right to freedom of expression, right to freedom of association, assembly, access to information and materials, and the most important, Article 16, which talks about right to privacy. That makes it clear that children and young people have the right to privacy just like adults. So why actually I have started quoting UNCRC and its article is, whenever we start talking about ensuring safety of children, online safety of children, we see a little hesitation among people, and with some people assuming that we are against the uses of technology. It's not like, especially from the child rights group, when we talk about it. Then that's not the thing. We are very pro use of a technology, but it should be child centric, child safe when it is dealing with children. So on one hand, online or digital services provides children with opportunities to explore and shape their identities and to communicate. But on the other hand, the threats to children's safety and privacy are increasing at alarming rates. And there are a number of data that I'm not going to go into it again. So children themselves and parents, teachers, and caregivers have a very big role to play in protecting the children's right to safety, right to privacy. But equally important is state must also safeguard children by making appropriate legislation and improving the implementation, having the awareness program strategies in place, appropriate, child focus, according to the evolving capacities of children. So the legislation and guidelines
Kritiji, your voice is not coming and the video has also stopped.
Hello?
Yeah, you're back.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry, I dropped out. Technology issue. Okay. So while dealing with children online and considering the best interest of the child, the evolving capacities of the children, children and their rights cannot be compromised in the name of ease of business. I'm not against doing business, but it should always be children first and not commerce first. Else we are definitely messing with our future. So now children usually interface and share data and information in three ways. So number one is, I'm trying to give the message in a very simplified manner. I'm trying to avoid all the jargon. So the number one is the data contributed by children, about themselves, about their families about others, and usually intentionally, knowingly they are sharing it, and at times unintentionally, unknowingly while participating in online platforms. The second type is when they leave data, most of the time unknowingly while participating online, and it's captured by data tracking technologies such as cookies and other metadata. The third type is when the data is derived from analyzing data, given in data, we call it data traces, often by algorithms, profiling, we call it in simplified manner, uses of AI, artificial intelligence. And this is mostly not known. Unknown, it is beyond comprehension when it comes to children, at times adults also. See, I don't want to focus here on the hierarchy of these three types of related to their impact on children, but what I want to focus here is our current awareness programs, Ajay, are mostly related to the first type. And the second and the third type is nowhere in the picture. Okay. So we are still struggling with the basic digital education of children and families. And considering of course, the poor awareness levels and the poor education level of our population here in India, and I am sure in other developing countries and underdeveloped countries. So there is a huge gap between what are the current complex issues and the emerging complex issues and risks related to online safety, and where actually our awareness programs are. NCRT is making efforts, NCPCR, civil society organization, private bodies. But again, the focus is on the very basics, because our population, children, parents, and larger communities they are not aware of even the basics. But so forget about going into the complexities of the latest trends. The existing ones we all know is the risk that children are facing, online stalking, identity theft, and exposure to unwanted, sexually exploitative or inappropriate content. So on such pre-existing, and also it is an emerging risk related to advertising directed at children. Okay, so children, especially adolescents, are often seen as important market, as a consumer as well as an influencer, since they may influence decision making of their peers, their family. So children's private lives can then be exposed by marketers who can observe their online activities. A paid partnership between advertisers and video bloggers is like not a thing that we don't know about. In 2016, if I remember correctly, WHO, World Health Organization, reports on online food advertisements aimed at children concluded that parents were unaware of both the profiling techniques used to target children and the related risks. And there are many such examples. If you will go through a global privacy enforcement network report survey, you will find such many examples. Another risk of concern and emerging complex issue is related to the growing use of mass surveillance techniques. It captures the personal data of internet. We know internet users across the globe, not only here, across the globe, including children and adults. And as I said earlier, on the one hand, the web provides new tools that allow children to investigate the world around them. On the other hand, it opens new avenues to track, store, and analyze children's actions. A report commissioned by UNICEF has highlighted how online surveillance could be even more dangerous for children growing up today as a mass collection of data, and would allow authorities to build and maintain records of children's entire digital experience. Another one is the use of biometrics and how today's technologies can affect children online. And I'm quoting here the UNHCR report, and it mentions that biometric authentication is largely used by identification purposes in the areas of migration, mostly to identify and register undocumented immigrants and refugees. So the technology is also being used here for the identification of children in countries that lack effective birth registration system also, and when they are missing and in the refugee camps also. So I'm not going into too much of detailing of how the biometrics then combines with the other IoT-enabled devices in the blockchain, and then in the entire the tagging of system that works and enables identification of children in photos. For them, it is fun. For everyone, it is fun. But somewhere the data is getting stored. How it is getting stored, how it is going to be disposed, who is looking after it, no one has a clue. Another new trend that poses a series of risks to children, especially those from certain ethnic or religious groups, is the everyday use of algorithm to make an increased number of automated decisions online. If privacy and other ethnic standards are not embedded in algorithm, their use can lead to discrimination against a sect of children on the basis of their country of origin, ethnicity, religious status, and can lead to certain kind of discrimination, which may impact their future opportunities related to education and career, and also it may increase the state surveillance. CSAM, people have talked about it. I'm not going into detail, but it is still a very prominent and very worrisome issue. And the COVID-19 crisis has added fuel to it. And because children are spending more time online than ever, and offenders have reduced opportunities to commit offline abuses. So that has increased kind of an online demand of imagery and videos and everything else. Again, I'm quoting one global threat assessment 2021 report. So it mentions that online child sex abuse material has grown exponentially during the pandemic. And during the pandemic, it is suspected that sexual child exploitation has increased to 106%, according to this report I'm telling you. So this is again one worrisome trend. The second thing is internet addiction. And Ajay, and when I was with CRI, we have worked on this issue. People are still not very much aware of this of internet addiction, which is actually considered as a psychiatric disorder or a mental illness similar to other well-established addictive disorders. And Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders actually has recognized internet addiction as a mental disorder. It is a mental disorder. So this is also a worrisome trends where children may face changes in the cognitive and the behavioral issues, including progressive loss of control over gaming, tolerance and withdrawal symptoms, and many others. I'm not going to go into details. I just want to highlight the issues. Another worrisome trend is how children nowadays are getting influenced related to hate crime, intolerance, and radicalization online. This also we need to figure out. One last point that I want to highlight here is concerns of vulnerable section of children, like migrant children, children with disabilities. How we are ensuring their online safety or their access to online tools, technologies, and whether our awareness materials, awareness program are catering these children is very, very important question. So with these questions and food of thought, I would like to thank you everyone for your attention, and organizers for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on this issue. Over to you, Ajay.
Thank you, Preeti. Thanks a lot for bringing out these issues. And yes, we all understand that there is a big gap between the problems that our children are facing and the solutions we take upon ourselves, the solutions that we are providing in terms of awareness or sensitization. Because what is required is not just knowledge. It is also the skill that is required. It is meaning the basic knowledge, the do's and don'ts won't suffice, because the crime is very dark, and it is It is like when we are talking about child sexual abuse, and when we are talking about stalking or child sexual abuse material being spread, and it is having a permanent digital footprint. It is not like it is today and it will go away tomorrow. It forms the digital identity of the child, and it is there with the child for the whole life, and the child cannot get away from that identity, because if it is so, it is something which we all need to work. And the other point that you spoke about, the ethical algorithm, which drives these big companies, they need to be very ethical, and meaning the programs, even from the safety side, when the big companies write, so it is a closed something. They do not disclose or discuss with others, and it is not mandated or mandatory upon them to discuss or disclose the algorithm or the programs or the codes that they write. How are they functioning? So that is another. And the most important point that you highlighted is the access and the safety of the children who are vulnerable, who are in the remote areas, who do not have access to this school or knowledge or these platforms. So क्या हम उनके बारे में बात कर रहे हैं? क्योंकि हम हमेशा से बोलते हैं, हमारी संस्था और जो नेटवर्क है, हम हमेशा से बोलते हैं कि एक्सेस बढ़ाना बहुत जरूरी है, हमें डिजिटल यूज को प्रमोट करना है, लेकिन अगर सेफ्टी नहीं होगी तो एक्सेस नहीं होगा। अगर सेफ्टी के ऊपर हम ध्यान नहीं देंगे तो उनका एक्सेस और जैसे कि उनका एक्सेस और घटता जाएगा। जैसे कि अगर आप बाइक चलाना चाहते हैं, बाइक चलाना, मोटर बाइक चलाना एक अच्छी चीज है, क्योंकि वो आपको एक जगह से दूसरी जगह कम समय में ले जाता है। लेकिन अगर आप हेलमेट नहीं पहनते हैं, या आपको ठीक से चलाना नहीं आता है, या आपको रूल्स नहीं पता है, तो एक्सीडेंट होगा। जब एक्सीडेंट आपके पहले 100 मीटर पे ही एक्सीडेंट हो जाए चलने के, तो आप क्या बाइक चलाएंगे? नहीं चला सकते हैं। तो वो आपको उस जो नए लोग हैं, जो नया सीख रहे हैं, उनके लिए वो डेटरेंट हो जाता है। So that these are all things that we need to keep in mind, and we will definitely keep in mind. And for that, it cannot just be work of one organization. We all need to come together, join forces, and learn from each other, support each other. That's very, very important. And thank you so much, Pritidi. With this word, we thank you and say you goodbye for now. Remain with us for the remaining time, and also join us tomorrow. And we'll keep connected and work together. Now I welcome Ms. Anika Vasisht. She is Assistant Professor of Criminology at Karunya Institute of Technology and Sciences in Coimbatore. She will talk mainly about the issues of cyber psychology and mainly about cyber psychology. This is one branch of study which all of you would be knowing. Or if somebody doesn't know, I'll just throw basic light on it. What is the psychology of the criminals, cyber criminals, especially the younger ones? Why do they do it? What compels or propels them to do it? So this is something which she will be talking about. And over to you, Anika. I'll make you co-host. Have I made you co-host?
Yes, sir. I can.
Okay.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you so much, sir, for the introduction, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here. As you all know, that 2020 was a difficult year for all of us to process, but the repercussions of the pandemic were mostly harsh on the children, and that is why we are here to discuss how we can make a digital environment safe for them. But everywhere, psychology plays an important role in making anything safe. If you're not able to understand why it is happening, we'll not be able to work on the solutions. So in 2020, we collectively saw a rise of 400%. It's a statistic that I'm giving, 400% rise in cybercrime, which we all are being discussing from today. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I'll be talking about cyber psychology. I'll be talking about a little bit about cyber forensics as well, and how these approaches are framing our perceptions regarding child safety in the cyberspace. So what exactly is cyber psychology? How do we explain to a child or to anyone what is cyber psychology? So अगर एक normal भाषा में, in general parlance, if we talk about cyber psychology, it is just an applied field of psychology that is also sometimes known as your internet psychology or web psychology, which generally deals with 3 parameters. It has 3 elements, main elements. First is how we interact with technology. What are we doing with technology? Like we are hosting a webinar, this is how we are interacting with technology. We are creating our profiles on social media platforms. We're using WhatsApp. We're using our emails to conduct our businesses. So that is how we are interacting with the technology. Second is how we develop technology to, fit our requirements and our desires. So there was a requirement for a certain thing, and we used technology to develop it. So somebody wanted something to count the steps. Okay, how many steps are we taking? This is a basic example of technology, and they developed this smartwatch. So this smartwatch is on my hand. It is taking all my data everywhere I'm going. It's calculating my steps, and it is feeding to another app. What is it doing? It's just actually using my energy and everything and is calculating it. So according to my requirement, I have a technology that fits my needs and interest. And third, it dictates how your behavior, our mood swings, our psychological states are impacted by different technologies. So there are many different journals and many different things that have started emerging in this field of cyber psychology. However, in India, we're still, in the nascent stages of growth. We're still working on these processes. We're not including that much. Academia is not that much available on that stage. So I would like to show a small PPT. Just let me just share. Is it visible?
Yes, visible.
Let me readjust.
Visible, Anika, visible. Go ahead.
I'm just readjusting my this. Okay. So today we'll be talking about cyber psychology, cyber forensics, and what is its use and how we can make it a little more safe for our children and young people, especially from the age of 13 to 25. I am taking the young people till 25. I'll let you know why. So my agenda in this is to assess the impact of technology on our Gen Z. Gen Z is basically the ones who are like in the age group of 18 to 22, like from up below the age of 22. The behavior of adolescents on internet platforms. How are children webbed in the cyber network? How are we using this? There is a term called dark web, and how children are using that dark web and how they are getting trapped in that dark web. We are going to just have a small discussion on that. And then there is the concept of evidence dynamics. Evidence dynamics, or what you call as your digital footprint. Are we creating a positive footprint? Are we creating a negative footprint? So that is, and how that footprint is being tracked by perpetrators and your law enforcement agencies alike. And what is the major difference between abstraction and hiding? So as you all know, we already have discussed this many times that many youngsters are now using internet. Our education system has completely moved to digital platforms, and they're using our devices, mobile devices, our computers, laptops, tablets, and they're using a lot of technology just to connect with other people. Earlier, it was not there. We used to meet face to face, and there is the entire world and the entire concept of childhood has completely changed with the coming of technology and new things that are coming up. So their hunger for appreciation, their hunger for appreciation or their need for validation is completely different for how we used to express ourselves. They have gotten that freedom on that internet websites and social media platforms to fully express themselves without feeling any kind of pressure from their parents or peers or anybody else. So what this freedom has brought to us, it has given us a lot of opportunities. We are connecting, we are learning a lot of things. We are, sitting here and we are able to learn from a different platform somewhere else in the world. Surely it has given us that platform, but there are downsides and drawbacks to everything. So when you are spending long hours on online platform and you're not sure of what to do, and there's a doom scrolling that you get involved into. So there's a concept of doom scrolling. Children just get involved into, like, you are talking to them and they're scrolling. There's something going on. They're not even bothered about telling what is going on. They're just scrolling. Mindless scrolling happens. Why is it happening? what is triggering them to, stop interacting with the normal environment and actually be involved with their digital avatars more. So they are paving way for these technologies, actually paving way for several problems regarding the health and the mental well-being of the adolescents. So your cyber psychology comes into play the moment you start expressing yourself. You make an ID and you're scrolling on something and you like some picture which has a great dress, and then you go and keep on searching for that clothes, and suddenly an Myntra and ad will come which has customized according to you and according to your taste after your hours of scrolling, and it will show you what you require, and you end up spending your money there. So that is an aspect of cyber psychology. They are curating your taste, they are curating their products as per your taste. After knowing, taking all your data and learning from your psychology, they're pushing those ads in front of your face. So even if I don't want to buy anything, if I'm taking if I'm seeing 10 ads per day for that simple thing, it will keep me engaged. उस ad को बार-बार देखने से I am getting engaged, I am getting excited of the prospect of buying that thing. So I go to Myntra and then I order that thing. So it ends me being a consumer of that product. So this is the simple aspect of how cyber psychology in the normal days in our normal lives work. Okay, so Preeti ma'am has already told that there is an internet addiction disorder. We already know that it was classified in the DSM in 2013. However, after that, we have come a long way in our technology domain. There are many other disorders that have kept coming up. There's a new pandemic that we're dealing with, which is the infodemic. There is a lot of information on the internet, and we are not even sure of what information is correct for us, which information is correct for our children, what information are they consuming. So infomania, addiction to internet, addiction to using social media has yet not been classified as a psychological disorder in the International Convention for Diseases, which is International Classification of Diseases, and it is still a matter of concern for us. So there is a study by Hoffman and Novick, which suggested that there is a concept of flow, that the ease of using internet, how easy it has become for all of us to use internet, how easy it is on our mind to just make a click and order something, has actually associated that pleasure in that experience, and we are getting lost in our own online journey. We're not even bothering to pay attention of how much time we have spent on that particular app, just doom scrolling. So that is the internet addiction that we're talking about. So overuse of internet has led to many problems. There are many mental health disorders, depression, low self-esteem, social isolation. People have started coming up with there are new disorders, eating disorders, and anxiety. Children have started developing anxiety. So overexposure to all of our internet, overexposure to all these things have started making children upset. Their association with internet, their association with social media and the likes is causing them a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of low self-esteem. They see one picture where it is an edited picture where you're using face app to tune your face and your body, and it looks completely unlike you. And the other person thinks that I don't want to be like that person. It is that app is creating that mindset in our mind that we are not perfect. So it is creating a kind of a deprivation in our children. So cyber psychology deals with that deprivation of why are we getting excited at the prospect of all these things. So they are targeting our neurotransmitters that using that dopamine and that reflex where we actually get too attached. When we post any picture, we get too attached with that picture. We are continuously scrolling and who is liking our picture, who is not liking our picture, and that happens on a daily level. So social media keeps up with that dopamine level in our body. We are too excited every time we're going to social media. So that is why we're getting hooked up, because neurotransmitters fire up and हमारे अंदर different happy hormones. Our serotonin is working fine. So we are thinking that there is a countermeasure to our depression, which is social media. Instead, social media is actually fueling our depression. Excessive or poorly controlled preoccupation, urges or behavior regarding computer use and internet access leads to a complete impairment or a distress. So introvert personalities are fully able to sometimes are able to express themselves on social media. So वो जो बच्चे घर पे अपने आप को fully express नहीं कर पाते हैं due to introvert, they are using these platforms to express themselves. And sometimes you don't realize that lack of parental control or lack of social control at these institutions, at these social media platforms, is leading to many more crimes, that is your child sexual abuse, your child pornography. There are many different things that are happening there. So these perpetrators or these predators, they are excellent child manipulators. They know which child to target. They look for these people who have this alienated parental syndrome and like who do not connect with their parents well, or there is always some issues with the children with their parents. So they are posting much on social media. Not just on social media, there are many other trolling platforms. There are many other chat boxes where you can go and post comments anonymously. So internet has provided us with the freedom to post anonymously, and that freedom is immense. If you don't know how to handle it, if you don't have that cognitive development and emotional development to understand the downside of that anonymity, you're going to fall into a trap. And many children fall into that trap. Online grooming begins from this area only. So how does a transition of an adolescence happen? So initially, if we take at the stage of 13 years, there's a lot of emotional turmoil. At 14, the adolescents start to develop an rebellious attitude. They start to, bite their parents, and there's a lot of things that they do not agree with their parents on. So that is a rebellious phase. So in that rebellious phase and between that identity information phase, if the child is on social media and interacting with peers that he does not know, there is a chance that he might fall into something that is not meant for him. He might fall a victim to something. So there's a need for freedom. We are continuously like wanting freedom from our parents or to take our own decisions. And these deprivations and these kind of जो हमें वहां से घर वालों से अपनी आजादी नहीं मिलती है, we try to take that freedom from those social media platforms. And obviously, then attraction towards opposite sex and crushes make you post more on social media. So this is how psychology works. If I post a nice picture, he might comment, and children get caught in that trap because it's a hormonal, it's an age where hormones are on peak. So it's not their mistake, but it is our duty to actually make them aware of how to handle social media well. So social media activity. So after seeing how children actually present themselves, there are 5 categories that we can divide them into. There are certain children who are very expressive, who will post everything. They will geotag their information. They will tell us about which place they hanged out in or which person they were with. So there are children who are very expressive, who do not have who have public profiles, and they do not care about other persons. They're just there to share their information. And some children who are impatient, who are they have their own impersona, which is very different from their offline personality. Some people are sharing knowledgeable stuff, and some people just want to use social media to stay connected, which is not wrong. But all of these personalities actually come to the part where we as parents don't realize how much control we have to give it to them. So child's risky behavior, किसी भी बच्चे का एक risky behavior एक theory है victimization की, which actually is used by the law enforcement agencies and the perpetrators as well. So this is called as a routine activity theory. Your routine activity theory says that there is an offender who is looking for chances to victimize somebody, to sexually harm a child. Then there is a target offender. A target or a suitable offender can be any person who is looking for domains to express themselves. So इसमें भी बहुत सारी चीजें ऐसी होती हैं जो एक perpetrator बहुत तरीके से अपनी उनके पास they have social engineering skills. They use a different psychological tricks and techniques to manipulate the children. They test the children in different platforms. Is that child vulnerable or not? They try to isolate the child from their own families. So this is how there are certain tricks that are used by these psychological offenders or these perpetrators to trap those children. So those child become the victims. So there is a victim, there is an offender, and there is an absent guardian. So if we are busy continuously, we are on our work, or we are the parents are not able to give time to their children. So if there's a lack of social control, or if there is somebody who is not able to monitor the children of what they're doing, and it is impossible to monitor children every time. Even the 6-year-olds, I have seen people giving phones to their 6-year-old. How are you going to monitor every aspect of their activity? It is impossible. They're using phones in the midnight. You're sleeping at that time, so you cannot keep track of their own of your own children. Even now, despite having parental control framework, people are able to bypass that framework. So there is a thing called parental control framework. We can attack that parental control framework in their phones. But no, children are that technologically sound more than us, that they know how to bypass that domain. So this was a theory which was given by Marcus Cohen and Lawrence Cohen and Marcus Felsen in 1979, which actually tried to explain why certain children become victim to these child pornography or your child sexual abuse or different other things. So the concept of evidence dynamics. This is the place where actually child psychology and your your cyber psychology and cyber forensics come into play. So every day, if you're posting something, if you are on social media, if you're on any platform in this country, which is connected by internet, you are creating a digital footprint. That digital footprint, whatever information that you're sharing, which is personal or not personal, your photos or your even comments, certain simple comments, that is your footprint. So any footprint that you're creating can be positive. Positive if you're sharing something knowledgeable, which like you're sharing something which is not personal, not sensitive information is not there, but that comes after a lot period of time. So if mostly children are engaging in activities they consider fun. So what happens after that? So internet has provided us means to retain any kind of anonymity. So law enforcement officials इस चीज में हमारे बहुत पीछे रह गए हैं साइबर साइकोलॉजी और साइबर फोरेंसिक्स को यूज करने में, क्योंकि we don't have that technology जो उनको पता है. There are many ways that children are actually using dark web. I don't know how many people even know that there is a thing called VPN or there is a thing called Tor, which is an onion browser, and you can go from that onion browser and do anything. Major online child trafficking is now happening through dark web. So dark web has become so common to all these children and to perpetrators alike that the gap between perpetrators and victim is very narrow in current scenario. So पहले क्या होता था कि law enforcement agencies का response उनके specific crime में बहुत जल्दी आता था because they were using that conventional methods. Nowadays, we are not that trained. Our professionals are not that trained to handle any task which comes related to cyber crimes. We don't have that kind of technology. There are many tools that could be used to fight child pornography or to fight your online child trafficking. But for that, you need to provide them training. You need to make them aware about how child psychology works, how cyber psychology is being used by perpetrators. So there's a pattern recognition software which has been developed and which actually helps in analyzing and prioritizing कि कैसे हम किसी victim कोई बच्चा अगर victimized हुआ है pornography का या फिर child sexual abuse का, तो हम उसको कैसे identify करें. Also, that pattern recognition software is also helping us to create a database to find people who are continuously perpetrators, like who are recidivists, who are continuously offenders in this. तो ये टेक्निक ऑलरेडी डेवलप की जा चुकी है, लाइक पीयर टू पीयर फाइल शेयरिंग जो हमारे इंडिया में सबसे ज्यादा प्लेटफॉर्म से होती है. मतलब पोर्नोग्राफी, चाइल्ड पोर्नोग्राफी का मेन शेयरिंग मीडियम हैज बिकम लाइक आवर टेलीग्राम. Many people use Telegram, but there are so many groups that actually will provide you the link for online child sexual activities. Like it will be a live child sexual abuse that will be going on, or online links to child pornography. They are completely not obeying the rules and like for the IT Act. And they're able to distribute child pornography materials just by these social media platforms. And these platforms are used by our children, are used by our adolescents. And उतना capability उनकी नहीं होती to define कि क्या सही है और क्या गलत है. तो बहुत टेक्निक्स हमने डेवलप की हुई है, लेकिन हम उनको टेक्निकली अच्छे से यूज नहीं कर पा रहे हैं at very ground level. If you talk to any sub inspector or inspector, they are not that trained to handle cyber crimes. They're not trained to handle what happens in case a child goes missing, what happens in case a child is sexually exploited, what to do, what is the cyber forensics, what are the evidences they need to recover. So that type of training has to be provided to our law enforcement officials. So अगर हम pedophile या फिर sexual predators की बात करें तो उनकी बहुत sophisticated techniques होती हैं children और adolescents को फंसाने के लिए. I will like directly use the term. It's called trapping those people. So perpetrators अपनी anonymity बहुत आराम से maintain कर पाते हैं. They will be using chat rooms to share information. तो वो even if they have identified one target, if this is my child, this is the person I'm going to target, they will leave signals for other perpetrators to actually manipulate that person. So after identifying children that they can, get into a sexual relationship with or, forcibly ask them to indulge in any sexual activities, they try to manipulate them. They are very skillful manipulators and they are able to share their techniques because of this internet with other people. So the skills and the psychology that they are using is not limited to just them. It is actually available to every other person. So sexual solicitation जो minors का होता है वो mostly आपके एक ऐसा approach वो लोग लेके आते हैं जहाँ पे वो उनसे पहले अपना एक rapport और एक trust establish करते हैं. वो target को पहले उनसे दोस्ती करते हैं. They try to get familiar with their targets and over time वो फिर अपनी age बताएंगे, फिर अपना ये बताएंगे कि अगर एक confidence have been established between them, so they will try to build a significant emotional relationship with that person. So ये approach basically adolescent people like pre-pubis puberty वाले जो बच्चे होते हैं इनमें बहुत ज़्यादा successful रहती है. क्यों? क्योंकि they are always seeking attention. It's not just their nature, it's their age which asks them to be, more active on social media. They want validation, they want attention. So these people actually try to identify those children that are easy to manipulate. So बहुत ज़्यादा psychological satisfaction आता है when they are able to deceive those people to perpetrators. तो अगर हम older teens में बात करें तो older teens में especially male teens में वो क्या करते हैं, they promise the intended victim that they will get some kind of sexual gratification to perform any sexual act. So in this way, they will use the pornographic material that has been sent by the male children, and then blackmail it or ask them to meet them to not कि किसी को पता ना चले, इसलिए वो उनको बुलाने की भी कोशिश करते हैं. The ultimate agenda is to actually call them for a physical meeting. तो बहुत सारी अप्रोचेस इसमें बहुत डायरेक्ट होती हैं, बहुत साइकोलॉजिकल अप्रोचेस इनडायरेक्ट होती हैं. तो बहुत सारे स्पेसिफिक ट्रोल चैट रूम्स बनाए हुए हैं. देयर आर मेनी ट्रोल चैट रूम्स, देयर कू एंड देयर आर लाइक योर बेसिक. अगर मैं बात करूं तो देयर इज this one at Discord. So Discord पे you don't have to reveal your identity. You can take any name and you can talk to any person. So there are many chat rooms जो कि डिजाइन किए गए हैं and the perpetrators enter those chat rooms that are designed for teens looking for potential victims. So they will post some suggestive comment under any post, and if they receive any kind of positive response from any child, they will move to more sexually explicit statements, and then they try to judge based on that response how will the other person react, and then the goal is to actually achieve a physical meeting with the target as soon as possible. So pedophiles ने बहुत पहले से ही pornography का यूज किया हुआ है सेक्सुअली सेड्यूस करने के लिए उनके टारगेट को. So पहले वो एक untoward मैसेज भेजेंगे अपने किसी भी victim को, then they will increasingly send them graphic pictures of nudity or sexual activity, and then they will move to a complete videos like how is the child acting, ताकि they could normalize the process of online grooming. So over time these graphic images become heavily produced, and this happens. So if I move to just how there are certain tools like our photo DNA, our big photo fingerprinting or video fingerprinting apps or pattern recognition software. There are many cyber forensics tools that can be used to investigate these cases, but we are not able to use it because we don't have that capacity. We don't have built our children or our parents, and we have not provided them with the tools to digitally identify the data. So our law enforcement officials, our police officers are not having that kind of training at the basic level. If we talk about safety at national level, we are secure. But if we are talking about anything which is happening on the lower level, we don't have that kind of information and that kind of training to any person. So उसमें एक special educational training लगती है, like cyber bullying को curb करने के लिए. There is also many data that is available. That there are many cyber forensic tools that are available which provide you that this person has already bullied another person, and you can file a complaint. There are many other tools available in that social media platforms also, but we are not able to use that. There is a lot of implementation gap in our policies for this. So peer pressure की वजह से भी बच्चे कुछ ऐसी activities में include करते हैं. So hardware, if we go to digital evidences and computer crime, I've taken this from digital evidences and computer crime. These are the hardware that are contraband. Like these are the things that are actually used for perpetrating cyber crimes against children. So they will clone your mobile phones, hardware for intercepting communication. So there is no encryption. The end-to-end encryption is null and void. So they will steal your information from a computer, or from they will steal your information from stolen credit cards. They will use printers, or they will use scanners to produce child pornography. They will use mobile phones, which can be an evidence, but we don't know how to use how to get digital forensics from that mobile phone. And digital photographs or videos of children child exploitation, which is actually, if you go to any website right now, if I could show you, you go to Tor and you type any child pornographic website, they will show you the link that you have to pay this much amount of money. And that money is not in dollars, that is in Bitcoin. We are using cryptocurrency so that we cannot even trace that where that money is going, who is transferring that money and who is watching that videos. And we are able to live view the child sexual exploitation which is done. So a lot of information is available to the perpetrators and to the victims, but not to the person who can actually intervene between that. We are not, if you ask any police officials, they will say they don't know much about dark web. What is dark web? What is darknet? Deep net क्या होता है? अच्छा हमें तो surface net के बारे में पता था. हमें तो बस ये पता है कि computer उठा के लेके चले जाना है if something happens. So that is what we're dealing with right now. So कोई भी valuable data अगर चोरी हो जाता है, तो bank account details चोरी हो जाती है, तो obviously it puts children and their families at risk. So how to manage that gap? So if we see the trends, this is from DART ransomware engagements. This is by Microsoft. This data has been collected by Microsoft, and this data shows how differently our cyber attacks are changing in the current scenario. So from 2020 to 2021, these are the areas from media and entertainment, our real estate, our energy, our consumer retail. So there are many areas, and specifically education, professional services, media, entertainment. These are major things that are actually used by our children, and every other thing is actually used by our parents. So even our parents are getting targeted by these cyber attacks. So that means there is a less knowledge, like knowledge regarding cyber forensics and cyber psychology in dealing with this problem. So we are not actually implementing the tech. We are not making them aware कि क्या-क्या techniques perpetrators use करते हैं to identify the victims. That needs to be given to parents, to teachers, and to children to identify if you're being a victim to cyber crime. So what can be done? Difference between abstraction and hiding. So हम लोगों को ये बोला जाता है जितनी information बचा के रख सकते हो, information मतलब if you want to protect yourself from cyber crime, protect your information. Show only what is required. Hide your information in as many aspects as you can. Relevant things fully, because we cannot completely abstain from social media or our cyber technology. So what is it? Try to make them aware of what information they should share, what information they should not share, what kind of people they should talk to, what are the privacy settings that are available. So awareness is the one thing. Cyber forensics बहुत बाद में आता है. ये सारी चीजें prevention के लिए हैं, like protection के लिए हैं. What happened afterwards? Prevention के लिए आप क्या कर सकते हो? उसके लिए आपको एक awareness बढ़ाना cyber psychology के लिए बहुत जरूरी है. So that was it. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I know I deviated a lot from my topic, but it was like a lot of things that were going on in my mind to just tell in one single go.
Thank you so much, Anika. Thank you. You took a little longer time, but I didn't stop because it was so knowledgeable, and especially for all of us who have gathered today. It's very important to understand that the level of sophistication that this crime and this sector actually has gone into. It is very, and Preeti ji, before Anika was talking about that there is a gap between what is happening in terms of harm and risk with the children, and what is the level of education and awareness and sensitization that we are providing to our children and teachers and parents. There is a huge gap, as you would have heard Anika talk about the social engineering concepts that these criminals use, the cyber psychology dimensions they use, they understand the psychological dimensions, and not that this knowledge is not available there, but it is not reaching to where it should reach. And it meaning it should reach definitely also our law enforcement agencies. It should reach the teachers. It should reach the parents, and in a manner that is comprehensible and could be understood by people, general people. And so we will definitely work together, and we are working together, Anika, and we are trying to build these material and trying to reach out with these kind of knowledge and skill to the to the teachers and the parents and the children. And thank you so much. And in fact, it was such a nice presentation that I thought of stopping you in between, but I couldn't kind of gather the courage to stop you in between. So thank you so much. And with these words, I welcome Dr. Sanjeev Rai. Sanjeev sir, if you are there, to take us forward in terms of with your wise words. He is an eminent educationist. He is the founder of School of Open Ideas, and he is also, if you all would be knowing, a governing board member of FLAIR. And to kind of sum up and see what direction it should go into, because you would have heard about what Shireen was talking from Facebook and what Dr. Gupta was talking from Ministry, and you would have heard Preeti and Anika. So over to you, sir. Dr.
Okay,
Sanjeev Rai, please.
Thank you, Ajay ji. It was an honor to have interaction with the experts on this issue. And if you recall the gathering we had at IIC 3 years back, from there and now, I think the group has evolved, and many things have evolved. And of course, during this 2 years lockdown period, the technology penetration has also expanded widely. So I'm not I think this session is more about the way forward. So I'm talking about the context of the children, which many people have already reflected from the parents' perspective. So there is like in most of the families you will find Anika was talking about the adolescents, and several other experts have talked about. So the context of the children and the parental context uh, seems different, because parents always wants to implement their childhood experiences, because they have socialized from those processes which they want to apply on their children as well, and that causes stress and tension many a times in the family level. So the context of children is that they can't, especially the children who have the access to the gadgets, they can't be thinking a word beyond the internet, without internet. So it's necessity for them, whether it's an online class or for being in touch with the friends or social events and all that. So it has become essential part of their life. The parents, when they were in that age, in the school age and entering into colleges, we were having television which had certain programs like Bunyad and Chitrahar, those kind of content. And if we go back when we were not having television in India, in UK, in London, the television started around 1950, and at that time only limited programs were there on television. But even though during evening 6 to 7, no program was telecast on television in 1951, 52, 53, because that was the children's sleeping time. Children's were expected to go on bed. तो वो उस समय 6 से 7 बजे शाम को कोई प्रोग्राम नहीं आता था, टीवी का ब्रेक रहता था. बाद में खैर वो धीरे धीरे हो गया. So information overload is again another challenge. So can we filter? Can we have some pause time? I think that's one area where we need to improve upon collectively. The second thing is, if I talk about education, more than 4,500 edutech companies have been working in this space, and almost 500 companies came to business during these 2 years when the pandemic started. So, though the data consumption and our screen time has gone up, the awareness which we required for the at the school level, teachers level, parental level, uh, I think is not matching the kind of information we are flooded with. So. And another challenge is the language, as you highlighted, Ajay, in some other context, no, on social use of social media, because it goes without monitor. So our own discourse, है ना, हमारी जो बातचीत है वो दूसरे लोगों तक कैसे पहुंचेगी, तो उसमें भी भाषा का एक सवाल है. जो मटेरियल बनता है, बहुत सारे इस पे मटेरियल NCPCR का भी बना है, NCERT ने भी बनाया है, बहुत सारे NGOs ने भी बनाया है, लेकिन वो ज़्यादातर मटेरियल जो बनते हैं NGO सेक्टर में वो ट्रांसलेटेड होते हैं, पहले इंग्लिश में बनते हैं फिर हिंदी में बनते हैं, जबकि अगर आप देखें तो अभी जो चलन है वो भाषा को और सिंप्लीफाई करने का है, लैंग्वेज का, जो आप फिल्मों में भी देखेंगे और सॉन्ग्स में भी देखेंगे. तो ये NGO और ये जो एजेंसीज हैं who are responsible for the children's safety and on security, उसके beyond कैसे जाएगा, to get into the public discourse में वो कैसे जाएगा. You have already identified some institutions, लेकिन उनके साथ एक पूरा dissemination plan बनाना पड़ेगा collectively, कि ये टाइम बाउंड प्लान होगा, उसमें ज्योग्राफी का भी ध्यान रखना होगा, उसमें लैंग्वेज का भी ध्यान रखना होगा, उसमें चैनल्स का भी ध्यान रखना होगा, दैट हाउ वी आर गोइंग टू डिसेमिनेट दीज इंफॉर्मेशंस एंड नॉलेज which have been created through policies, procedures, protocols, and experiences as well. So that's another challenge. And of course, we need commitment from the edutech companies as well, or technology companies and the social media companies as well. The commitment that we won't be doing this. No, because look, for the business strategy, if you look the business strategy, these children are the potential consumers. So most of the companies, the children are part of their part of their strategy as a future consumer. So that's a dilemma the companies might also be facing. So how to walk in those spaces where yes, of course, the children would be growing in this world. At the same time, they also need to be healthy and protected. No? So mental health is also emerging as an issue, as a concern, no? Because of the internet addiction, information overload, and other kinds of vulnerability have been discussed since morning, so I'm not going into that. So commitment from the technology companies who are making programs, the commitment from the parents, the commitment from the schools, the commitment from the government, the protocols are also need to be in place, and especially from the emergency perspective also. No, because we are talking all the safety measures for a normal like life situation. But we are also prone to natural and man-made disasters. So, so in those times, how these safety nets would be working effectively, that should also be part of our discourse. I don't have much to say, and you can add on.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for summing it up, and for your wise words that says, that exhorts to kind of all of us need to work together and be responsible. May I call upon Satyaprakash? Satyaprakash ji, are you there? Can you turn on your video? Satyaprakash, if you are there. Because we are.
Hi, I'm here. I'm here. Thank you. So I think I was waiting for the host to open me up. So thank you. And I think I have been here since morning, and I recall the day when Ajay initiated this discussion that we should have, this stock taking discussion. And we heard from Dr. Rai that, how the journey has been, last 2 years, when we had first interaction at the IIC, that was something we were in the pre-COVID era. We were anticipating, and based on the cases which we were getting, that this space is very new, yet it's very dynamic. And how do we really prepare ourselves? And today, after listening to all of the esteemed panelists, who have a dearth of knowledge and experience, and Serene being at the Facebook, that shows that, who comes from decades of experience in child protection in India, heading the safety division within the Facebook. Very interestingly, I think this alliance has to grow further. This alliance, which is started with the same spirit, that we need to have practitioners who are on the ground. Just to briefly say that, currently I'm with FXP India Suraksha, and also closely working and known Ajay, before he started the FLAIR initiative, that, we also run Childline in 2 of the district, one in Manipur and other in Noida. We have several cases of similar sort coming to us. The second space where we are doing a lot of capacity building with the law enforcement department, and the activities or the exploitation which is happening online space is something we are also trying to address. But I completely agree with the professor from Coimbatore that the acceptance and the mindset of the law enforcement agencies, particularly those who are on ground. I'm not talking about somebody who's at the senior cadre. They are pretty familiar and they're aware of this situation. But somebody who's at the police station level, SI, SHO, typically we find there is a resistance or there is an acceptance of such issues. And thirdly, about how much of research and how much of material is being contributed, where we reach out to the target audience, which is the students, who is the consumer, in the economics terms we used to say, who need to be made aware because they are anyway going to be online. And I think last 2 years has, we all have witnessed how their presence on online space has increased, that we cannot control. Second, definitely about the parents, and I'm sure there are several materials which FLAIR and under Ajay's guidance, it has been put forward. And thirdly, about the law enforcement and somebody who's at the governance stage, how do they reinforce? Now, one of the questions which Ajay was asking to the officers from the government of India, that okay, these companies, they put forward their compliances, every month, that how many images or such contents they removed. But how many cases or the cases were registered, or legal actions were initiated, which somewhere I don't think that, Ajay, you got the answer, so as me. I think there are some learning, which I feel from today's session we have it. We need to sit together, again as an alliance, and I'm very excited that the kind of new knowledge and the learning which has come today. We need to put this together as one piece. We cannot look at everything in separation. And I think Tushar was very apt and right in hinting us and taking on that direction. The media fraternity, how, because Hollywood or Bollywood, there are few movies, which has come on the similar line, but they have always kept the market interest in at the center. But how Swati is trying to, bring that kind of awareness through her documentary piece, the kind of research she has done, and Satyamay Jayate, we all know, still on ground. We are working in 13 states. We are using some of the videos from Satyamay Jayate to, spread awareness among the children. That's how powerful and impact it has left on each one of us. So I think today's session there is a lot of message, a strong messaging for each one of us. We need to sit together, take them on board, and certainly, Ajay, I can take this privilege of announcing that please do join this initiative, the Alliance, so that we collectively take this forward. And police certainly, because the ecosystem is changing, and human trafficking is one of the passionate area and my organization is particularly working. If you look at how the situation and the dynamics have changed, now from brothel it has gone online, the online sexual exploitation, which is something very new. And I strongly don't feel that the current IT Act is competent who's going to address this, because how this soliciting is happening, the Microsoft and the other web providers, the authority and the responsibility goes on to them. And I recall the debate when it started first happening in US, where in 2018 they got the first law to control this online trafficking activities. So my point that this dynamic paradigm, we need to come together. We need to bring in our knowledge, our research expertise, our field expertise. We all need to have this tripartite, it's not like a bilateral. We need to bring everybody together and we need to work together and take this forward. So yeah, thank you everybody on behalf of the Alliance. We are really excited. We really need to go, march ahead. And this is an issue which concerns everybody. That's what actually, Ajay, if I could say, in everybody's conversation, this was something which was very common, either be from the government side or from the service provider or somebody who's doing the research, that we are really caring for the kind of situation which is going to be very alarming in days to come. So definitely only the punitive action or making our laws stringent is not only solution. We need to bring this together. We need to create such materials, and I think the last session, the technical presentation was very informative. I'm going to use her, Ajay, I'm going to take her to, some of the police academies and bring this kind of knowledge. There are few organizations who are working in this space, but I strongly feel that as an alliance, we can really do and contribute more. Thank you, Ajay. Thank you.
Thank
Ajay,
you so much, Satyaprakash. Yes, thank you so much. And in fact, I would join my voice in asking everybody listening to it now and maybe who would be listening this recording or on YouTube later. Please join this alliance, and it is an exciting place to join and work together. And we on our website we have links for, and we can share links for. We have two types of membership. One is general membership and one is associate membership. And there are various general membership. One, anybody, even an individual, can become an associate member. An organization can become an agency. And there is a lot to do together. In fact, I don't find any one single organization across the world which can cater to so many problems single-handedly. Not even Facebook is able to do. Even Shireen was saying that they have lots of partnerships and they have many safety partners. On the technology side, it is a technology company. So that is the way that we should move ahead. And I am glad that we had people from the government and people from the NGOs, people from academia, and people from Facebook, and everybody is saying that there is a need to work together, because even Tushar was saying that everybody is concerned about one's own child, meaning nobody wants the child to be unsafe, meaning even if there is a criminal, he may be a perpetrator and an abuser, but most probably, I'm not saying certainly, but most probably he or she would not be thinking bad of his own or her own child. So we need to kind of pull on those feelings of goodness and kind-heartedness of everybody and come together and work to make the online space safer, because it is a space which is very democratic, which aids learning, which is important for the children across the world, especially from the vulnerable and the deprived community. It is a great tool, and until unless we make it collectively very, very safe, it's not going to be very useful for them. So with these words, I thank you all for today. I think we have gone a little late into the prescribed and this time. Let us meet again at 10 a.m. Tomorrow. Tomorrow we will be having research presentations from data from Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra and Goa, and Prerna will also be presenting about the book that we have for teachers on reporting and understanding the crime against children. Then we have presentation from Population Foundation of India, which is on their application, which is an AI application to report online child sexual abuse. And in the end, we will have Dr. Yatanpal Singh Barhara from All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Behavioral Addiction Clinic. So if you all would be knowing, Behavioral Addiction Clinic, All India Institute of Medical Sciences is also a founding member of this alliance, and so is FXB Suraksha, Satyaprakash's organization. There are founding, and we want more and more organizations to come and join, and then let us work together. So Dr. Yatanpal Singh Barhara will be speaking in the end, summing up what has been discussed and what is the way forward in the post-pandemic. Hopefully it is post-pandemic world already, and we are not amidst the pandemic. And hopefully after today and tomorrow, we'll meet sometime in physical space. Now we have had many discussion. It has its advantages and disadvantages that we could connect to people from Singapore and California when it was on virtual space, but meeting in physical space in Delhi or in Kolkata or in Bhopal or in Chennai or in Coimbatore or in say Meghalaya in Guwahati has its own advantages, and we really do want to hold meeting in physical space and we will continue using hybrid technologies if we want to connect people from California or New York or London, and then that person can definitely connect virtually. With these words, thank you so much, and let us meet tomorrow. Thank you so much. And those questions which could not be asked, you can send it on our email ID, info@flairindia.org or info@shicaa.org. And we can have questions tomorrow also. Thank you so much. Bye.